just a tad. Okay. Well, what's up, everybody? This is me, Francisco. It's Sports Goofs number 174. I keep thinking I'm going to lose count, but I don't. But yeah, it's 174. It's me. I'm joined by my good buddy Charles here. And my mood, I told you, Charles, before we started that my mood for this show was going to be dictated by the score of the Florida Panthers game.
You did.
And, I was feeling down. Let's just jump right into it. The Panthers are down 2-0 in the Stanley Cup final. And as much as it is surprising that they've made it here, and as much as it's been cool that they've made it here, as much as nobody thought they'd make it here, it's still not fun to be losing in this situation. And I was in my feelings yesterday. I'm not gonna lie. It hasn't been fun. I have the Panthers history account. I have nothing to tweet because one of my
I do like your tweet of I have nothing else to say today or something like that.
I have nothing to post. I don't like this type of history. Like, this is not good. This is not fun, and it doesn't look like fun for the players either.
Especially when it's like back-to-back blowouts, 6-2 and 7-2.
So, the Panthers, it's 5-2 and 7-2, but either way, we outscored 12-4 in the first two games. And, they had won like 8 road games in a row, and that's very hard to do. And eventually, they would lose on the road. Last night I was in my feelings. I'm not going to lie. A lot of Panthers fans were. All kinds of range of emotions that were none of them positive. From sadness to just feeling dead to feeling numb to just outright anger. And so as you know, Charles, and anybody who's watched this show, and some people do actually watch this, which is weird. And it's not just because I retweet this to my bigger accounts, but regardless, some people actually listen to this, which is also weird. But thanks for listening if you've been here. The theme for the playoffs for me is the eventual calamity.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, it doesn't seem like it's about to happen. It seems like the calamity won't happen. But, Charles, you've played Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
They waited 10,000 years before the calamity eventually happened. And it did. It did happen. So it will happen. We know it will happen, Charles. And so I'm like, well, in between those 10,000 years, like there's always a constant, Charles. And that constant is Ganondorf.
Mm-hmm.
Ganondorf always finds a way to be petty. He's the pettiest of all, maybe let's say all video game villains for sure.
Did we call him King Petty, or in the chat we said something that he's the Pettydorf?
I've titled this Pettydorf.
Or he's Pettydorf.
Yeah,
100%.
Because as much as the Zeldas change and the Links change,
Petty stays the same.
Ganondorf is still the same. He's still the same guy. He remembers each and every iteration of them. And he's always there to reign petty on Hyrule through and through. The only other person that's probably as petty as Sephiroth with Cloud. Probably the only other guy. He's just there to hate, right? He's the one showing up at Cloud's funeral in a suit just to make sure that man is dead.
You're a woman, I killed your woman. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And so, Charles, I've adopted the spirit of Ganondorf. I didn't do it during the Splatfest.
Are you Daddy Dorf at this point? Which is we have not.
Well, I haven't even.
We have not encountered Daddy Dorf.
Well, yeah, and this can actually. After we finish this, we can transition into the Teeters update because that's kind of been. It's a running thing.
It's a constant thing.
Yeah, that's gonna be the thing that'll power us through the And I want this season to kind of end at the end of the NBA and Stanley Cup Finals. So we only have like a couple more weeks of doing this before we.
Yeah, I mean, we're typically in our legs of what we do as is, because July is boring season. I mean, baseball's good.
Unprecedented times right now for us.
Yeah. So, yeah, very much so. We would have ended the show a little bit earlier.
Yeah, last month.
But not for our teams collectively being here. And that's not to say that we can't speak to you about finals. But here's the thing about finals: it's not. First off, it's not as interesting because you have two teams, one that is the clear-cut number 1 seed, and one that is a eighth seed for both sports, actually. So this is perfect. But we kind of tune out and we zone out anyway to a degree when we see it's the familiars. For basketball, I can at least say, I don't think we did the full construction when the Warriors beat Boston last year. I think we're just like, all right, we might put something on the tweet, but we didn't do a show on it. We just kind of talked about it. We do the recaps of like that because we don't really want to go 7 games, considering the fact that usually for playoffs, whether it be hockey or basketball, where you hear me say, I don't watch the first 3 games. I don't. Like, legitimately speaking, present gaming excluded. Even though the Panthers, I have to take a dig because the Pettydorf is out for both of us, is that even though I didn't really watch after the first period, I was like, I know where this is going. It wasn't a good experience to show. Whereas Miami Heat basketball might be a good experience to bring in casuals to the demographic. It wasn't like that for, I would say it's not like that for hockey.
The first 2 games they're not
reflectively good.
Yeah, the first 2 periods of game 1, it was 2-2 at that point. So it's like, okay, all right, this is good. We're in it, and I still feel the Panthers an inch or 2 here for some shots. They would have had like a 2 or 3-0 lead. But hey, that's the thing with hockey. It's the randomization of that sport. You talk about randomizers in video games. Hockey is the ultimate randomizer sport out there. Just so many variables that can affect deflection of that puck.
If I can speak to something I observed as a bare bones casual, which will eventually end because we know we're going to attack at some point NHL 24 made by EA Sports. What is up with the no calls? Because I had to look into my ideas of what a cross check was and what slashing was, because to me everything's the same. But I saw your boy
Charles,
Matthew
you're a wrestling
Tkachuk.
Fan.
Yeah, I mean
you should know what's up with the no calls.
Yeah, I'm like, just hit him with a steel chair at this point. Jesus Christ, because it was when he was near the goalie where the goalie took a cheap shot at him.
Yeah, Tkachuk,
and then I was just sitting there kind of like, because it is right in your face, and I understand the concept of hockey is a physical sport, but only in basketball is it that that you can go harder on defense in the postseason. I'm like, y'all just committed some murder right here. Jesus Christ. It felt like it. I was just kind of like flabbergasted. Not that I think it would have changed the outcome of the game, but and this is me uneducated speaking for my uneducated people, we understand the concept of a PowerPoint play and how that undermanningness of it can help out when it's 5-on-4. And not having that ability in the early periods is what helps you, because it all became for naught in the periods that followed, correct? It was just kind of like, oh, well, you really fell behind the game come the beginning of the third quarter or third period.
Yeah, it was a blowout after that. It didn't really matter. But Tkachuk was pushed into the opposing net as by one of the Vegas defensemen, and then as he's trying to get out of the net, he obviously has to touch Hill in some sort of fashion, and Hill is just pushing him out, and then just kind of smashing him with this stick, and the ref is
tone deaf,
blatantly looking at him, it's like just direct view of him, and that should be it doesn't matter if it's a goalie, it should be a penalty either way. It doesn't matter. So, he gets cross-checked in the back into the net, and then Hill pushes him back, whacks him with his glove, and then basically hits him with a stick, which should be a slashing call of some sort, or an interference. It has to be something, and it wasn't called. So, and the Panthers are getting hit with soft calls. We're gonna say that, and I'm not even. This is Pettydorf. I'm not being apologetic.
Let's out of the petty. Let's let it petty. Let's do this.
Fuck Vegas.
Yeah, fuck Vegas.
Fuck Vegas. Fuck Las Vegas. Fuck their fans. Fuck the entire city. Fuck Wayne Newton. Fuck all those guys. Okay.
Y'all had to open up brothels because, in the state of Nevada, because you guys couldn't get your own people. Come on now.
All right. I hope the A's pull off a major league and don't move there. The Raiders are forever going to be a glorified
sham
home
franchise.
Game. A sham franchise. Well, they've always been that. But there'll be a glorified home game for every visiting fan that goes there.
Al Davis about to come back from the dead.
Yep.
Ooh, another dragon.
LeBron, you're going to put an NBA team there. You're going to be just as unsuccessful as Michael Jordan was with the Charlotte Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
And if the A's do move there, good luck, all of y'all, when the A's don't spend a single dime to compete with the Houston Astros or the Texas Rangers, who do have money and actually spend, right?
The fact that DraftKings and Fanatics are going to be your sponsors goes to show what you're utilized for not being good sports teams, just good gambling addictions. Where's your morals? Where's your 1910 morality? Come on now. You get to do prostitution and gambling? Get out of here. Not in my
They're going to have a
town.
tiny ass stadium, by the way. It's going to barely hold 30,000 because they know they can't fill up at least 35K. This is coming from a Marlins fan, by the way.
They can't even pay the talent. You're going to have little leaguers who don't want to even go in there. Oh,
Yeah.
you want to go see the
All right.
Nevada Athletics?
Did
We're
you see,
more athletic than Nevada's.
Did you see Samantha Rivera, the reporter?
Oh, did I not send you? I sent you the Twitter link onto it, and then how she gift starring somebody.
Yeah,
and I sent you the Calvin Candy smoking up hello there kind of thing. I'm like, listen, man, yeah.
Yeah, Samantha Rivera. She's from Chicago, so the guy that couldn't even get his entire face on there. So damn it, Siri, I ain't talking for you. So, anyways, yeah. So she had the stiff arm. Everybody was comparing her to Derrick Henry, which I'm sure titillated you even more.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was awesome. She was awesome. She held it down for sure.
And she's like, I would give a damn. Not today, sir. I'm like, damn right.
So yeah, fuck Vegas. That's the Pettydorf is out, right? I've been watching. I saw the Wind Waker clip when the final boss battle between him and Link, and Ganondorf was just kind of laughing as the waters of the ocean start raining down, and he's just like, like just that's probably one of my more favorite scenes from a Zelda game.
Best Ganondorf, just saying.
Well, that's a conversation, but he because at that point he knew he lost, right? He knew he had lost because the King of Red Dragons, the King of Hyrule, had touched the Triforce and wished for old Hyrule to be washed away, and so Ganondorf wasn't going to get what he wanted, and Ganondorf was just started laughing. He's like, "All right, well, I'm just going to kill y'all. Nobody's going to get what they want," and that's how it went down. So.
Objectively speaking,
yes.
What is going on with Bobrovsky?
Look,
12 goals in 2 games.
That's not entirely on his fault, and the last 2 goals were not on him. They were with Alex Lyon. But regardless, the Panthers' defense is not making it easy for him. Okay. Throughout the playoffs, and I'll actually talk about actual hockey.
Yeah, you see, this is a sports show, everybody.
Because I have to appear for Game 4 for a podcast.
You also have to appear. You have to also appear in Game 3 as a fan. So this is perfect for Charles.
So we'll see what my reaction is, and especially after Game 4, I hope I don't have to be that guy to recap a loss, but. The Panthers throughout the playoffs have made it a very good point to make sure that Sergei Bobrovsky sees the puck. There's all kinds of chaos happening in front of him. And Bobrovsky is skilled enough. He's won 2 Vezina trophies, which is, like Cy Youngs for pitchers in baseball. He's won 2 of those already. He's good enough to stop and catch anything if he can see it. He this postseason at the very least has very rarely let in any soft goals, and of course the entire run between the Toronto series and the Hurricane series. Like, he was just basically lights out. But Vegas is kind of forcing screens. There was a double screen, most famously, last night, where they're forcing screens and forcing Panthers defenders to try and push them off, and they're getting in the way of Bobrovsky. So Panthers defenders gonna have to get back to what they were doing, which is try and get Vegas guys out in front of the net. But if Vegas is gonna make a shot, let them make the shot. But part the seas, clear the path so Bob can see it. Because 9 times out of 10, which is basically a really good save percentage for any hockey goalie out there, he's gonna make the stop. So that's really been the big difference thus far with Sergei Bobrovsky. So anybody who's listened and watched any sort of hockey analysis out there, I don't think anybody is blaming Bob for what's going on out there.
Okay.
And it's really on the
And
forward.
Kachuk's the only one putting on the offensive production, correct?
Well, I mean, he scored a goal yesterday, or the other day, and as far as the other things, I mean, Aiden Hill's playing great, but the Panthers really do have to make use of their opportunities. They were out shooting the Golden Knights, but the defensive end is where they really need to stop Vegas, because then it can get into transition and keep Vegas on their heels. And the other part is penalties have to go down. The Panthers were the least disciplined team in the NHL over the regular season. They were really bad. They had the second most amount of penalties in the league. So It's not like it's unprecedented the Panthers are taking a lot of penalties. They've got a much more antagonizing attitude to them this season than I've ever seen. And Tkachuk is the ringleader of all that, as you can see. Every time you saw Tkachuk, he was jabbing at a Vegas player in any sort of way, trying to get under their skin. And it's not like they can't keep doing that, but they're going to have to be a lot more disciplined about it. Pick their spots. During the Leafs series, the Panthers were pretty damn good about picking their spots to force the Leafs into taking the penalties for some of the dirty stuff, which is kind of what they have to do, because Vegas is not getting fazed by it. So if they're not getting fazed by that, then you're gonna have to rely on skill and good defense. That's it. The skill and good defense. After that, then we'll see what happens. But game one, first 2 periods, if they played like that, I think they'll be fine. But they haven't played like that since the start of the third period in game one, and they've reverted back to some bad habits that they had before the playoffs started.
All right. Now I'm going to ask you the silly question, but it's the question all the same. Because, it's a myth to me half the time about home field advantage and all of this other stuff that comes. Oh, shit, I'm getting shot. That comes into it. And I don't know how it plays into hockey. I legitimately don't, even if I've gone, because the hockey games I've gone to have been where, at the Panthers. So it's a very different vibe per se. Mm-hmm. But for your opinion, do you think going to the BB&T Center is going to help out with anything for this team? Look, being down 2-0 is not as bad as being down 3-0, but it is a very important stat. Do you think that change arena, change effect? Because the problem is a lot of stuff is in arenas. It doesn't rain, doesn't have weather acclimates. That's why I always feel sometimes things are hokey when it comes to these kind of projections. But do you find that there is something that could be a benefit of being a change of scenery from going from Nevada?
I mean, there's always. I mean, as far as the players are concerned, I don't think. I
always just thought it was a big myth that sports is like when the home team's there and Goku's asking for the spirit bomb.
In hockey, it's less so, because teams have come back from 3-0. Teams have won game 7s on the road. Mm-hmm. So that's in hockey. It's less so because I think because of the variability factor of the sport, the randomization.
Yeah.
Because a few bounces, a few weird hops, weird bounces, deflections off of somebody's skate or knee or glove or whatever or stick just changes things. You can have your goalie be absolutely lights out, but deflection, stuff like that, they got nothing. They can't do. The most they can do is just kind of position themselves and kind of get lucky, which is a lot of what goalies do. But home ice compared to home court in basketball and home field in baseball for like a 7-game series is, I think it's less important. The only real variable factor I could see that actually does affect are referees, because they are human beings and they do kind of, I don't know, and I don't want to, because Paul Maurice already said it in game 1. He got fined for kind of implying that the refs couldn't wait to get the Panthers back in the penalty box.
You are not Paul Maurice, and you're not subject to.
Well, fuck Vegas. Anyways, but Paul Maurice opened the game 2 press conference where he's like, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want to get fined. So he's not implying anything or anything like that, but we know what he means. Everybody knows what he means. I don't know if the NHL is gonna, kind of talk to the refs a little bit, just like, hey, yo, guys, this is the playoffs, Stanley Cup final. Y'all just kind of calling ticky-tacky things and not seeing obvious things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what frustrated a lot of people. And it wasn't just Florida fans; it was other fans. And this is also another conversation that I did kind of want to have. I think the city of Las Vegas has officially become their fan base. Regardless of sport, they only have 2, but they're going to get the other 2 eventually. They've become hateable now. They've graduated. They've finally become hateable. There's a lot of fans in the hockey specifically that don't want to see Vegas win. You have fans in Toronto who obviously don't want either of these teams to win, but I think Vegas would be a lot more because they're new, and the Leafs haven't won in 50 years. There's a lot of other teams that haven't won ever as well that are kind of sitting there like, what the fuck? They've been toiling for a few decades and haven't gotten this close. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that pettiness. Is why Pettydorf works for today, because Ganondorf doesn't just do things by himself. He has his own army, and he creates this sort of atmosphere that provides for pettiness to spread, right? He had his minions in Twilight Princess. He took over the Twilight Realm, just by being there. His presence provided that in Twilight Princess. He's got all his mobs and stuff in Breath of the Wild and all these other games. So he
just keeps bringing it back.
Yeah, he was the Gerudo chief, and then he gets casted out, and I'm gonna make my own damn army without these broads. That's Ganondorf's
he bendered it.
A guy from Brooklyn.
Well, he bendered it. That's what it was.
So that's what's been going on in the NHL lately, and I'm hoping that I'm going to invoke Paper Mario again. I'm hoping that at the end of the Paper Mario 1 and Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, there's the part where it just seems like all is lost, and then just like the spirit of everybody powers Mario through the magic of Deus Ex Machina to overcome the big baddie at the end, right? The Bowser and the Shadow Queen. And just by will alone, just the will of everybody. So I think the pettiness the Panthers need to find a way to channel all of that, because I think the hockey world outside of Vegas hates Vegas right now.
Yeah.
They've become hateable.
And you should hate Vegas if you're a long gestating fan. I'll tell you why. And this sounds weird because I have really no dog in this fight. It's because of the fact that it's only year 3 of a franchise.
Yeah.
And for them they were already in, is it 6? Yeah. Holy shit, world. Damn. Well, first year you're into the finals, and now you're 6th. Year 6, you're about to on the cusp or near the cusp of getting it all done. You should be aggravated as a fan base because if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Winnipeg Jets, like I'm listing off franchises. That's like Edmonton Oilers.
These are good ones to name off.
But Edmonton Oilers, basically all of Canada.
Edmonton's got the dynasty from the 80s, but regardless.
Yeah, I mean, look, buddy, we're 40 years ago from it. I'm not going to count.
That's true.
Anything that is older than me.
They consider themselves a blue blood franchise because of that.
I'm sorry. Anything that is older than me doesn't get that route anymore. You don't get that. It's true. It's the Dallas Cowboys argument.
Yeah.
Well, they have the best team, motherfuckers. That was
95,
96.
Yeah.
3 more years. That's 30 years ago. When your star players are on their way to just doing
retirement home,
Social Security, disability, retirement home stuff, I think we need to have that conversation about. What is actually a good dynasties. The Patriots dynasties get it for about 20 more years at most. Bill Belichick could be 100 still going at it. It's just amazing of how people want to quantify legacies. So you should kind of hate it to a degree. And because the idea is that if this is a team that's kind of been on the radar to be consistently good, I'm at Lower Lane Village. Of course, my controller wants to die.
Yeah.
But I'm doing Dragon Tears. But if they're going from that, and here's the thing people don't understand. From what I looked, because me, the one thing I look at is show me the cap, because that's the make or break of repeating teams. If you're on that hard cap and you can't come back, they should be good to go next couple of years. So y'all should hate this. That there's the new Blue Bloods with coaches who got Handsome Cassidy, right? So they're able to get these send-offs that weren't good as a coach, but were loved elsewhere, and look where it takes you. I have tried. I want to watch more hockey. I've kind of, it being on TNT and ESPN has been a boon, I would feel. But I can't watch a full game if the game's already over by the third period. So
it hasn't been
Panthers
for the NHL.
I need you to step up, please. Not to take a dig at you, but this is not me being petty. This is me being like they've wannabe casual.
They've been playing bad, regardless of the penalties. They haven't been doing good habits.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at with the Stanley Cup final. But Vegas is hateable now. And it's a good thing that the Raiders and A's are shit franchises when they came in. So they're just getting shit franchises.
The Raiders are just never going to be good. When you're I'm going to take a dig here. When your best, when your most notable stories are trading away a above average quarterback, when your story is just finally being the team that Josh McDaniels doesn't leave at the altar, and when your storyline has been about like Henry Ruggs and his favorite video game being Burnout. And he's mimicking that in real life. I'm sorry.
Of course. Yeah.
The Raiders have had like problem children as well. Yeah. Let's not take that away. So for the state of Nevada, I think having, of course, teams in Las Vegas is a very good thing, actually. Because they can produce money, especially since we just decided that gambling is okay 3 years ago, despite the fact that everybody was saying morality clause. It really is just we couldn't get the piece of the pie. Unlike very much, actually, no, it's not like unlike very much like a certain golf tour and a the LIV. That stuff interests me three years ago, man, and it's interesting now. But it's good for business, and I think we'll get an expansion there of basketball as well. At some point, you can only generally go with some Middle East stuff.
Maybe
or like what were they Midwest is what would you call Nevada? I know it's West Coast, but
no, that's West.
I think West Coast is like
it's not West Coast like California.
That's how I always view it
because
but the state of California has 4 basketball teams: Sacramento, Golden State, LA, and the Clippers, Lakers and the Clippers. I feel like I'm missing one other one. So that's why I'm just talking about, like, what are we doing here?
Alrighty. Anyways, so there's that. 30 minutes. So this is a good time to make the transition. So, we made a lot of Zelda references, Charles.
We did.
So it's time to talk some Zelda. We're at this. This is going to be it. And I'm going to assume we're going to finish. Well, I'm at least going to finish this game by the time these series are over and we're done with our season. I think. the way that my pace is going, I don't know if you saw it, but I think I'm plus 85 hours now.
I can look at it right now to give you guys. We're almost just 4 weeks into the game beyond. Not even a full 30 days. There's a big difference between. Remember, there's 28 days and 4 weeks for the most part, unless I'm wrong, right? And there's 30 to 31 days of the month. Francisco is at 85. I'm just screwing around in the show because I'm just transferring over some. I actually didn't want to play Zelda today. I was going to just put on my PS5 to play in the background, but I had to transfer over some memory to make some memory. I am at 55 hours.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Buddies is at 90 plus already.
Yeah, he is at 90 plus, and he hasn't made that progression that he's looking for. So that's the advantage or the disadvantage that homie and I are at right here, guys.
Yeah, it's something. I'll just have whatever my playthrough in the background here, but I played some last night. I haven't pushed the story at all. I did finish all the fairy stuff, so that's
okay. Wow, I'm surprised you went to that route.
I just wanted to get, but I have
the gear.
I have to collect a lot of materials to upgrade them. My best clothes. Well, the best clothes that for me are just the ones that are past Link stuff. So the Fierce Deity, the tunic of time, the tunic of the original hero, all that stuff. So that's where I'm at with that. So I'm trying to get that, but I did I saved the village, the beach town from the pirates.
Lurelin.
Yep. So
which I'm at right now.
Yeah. So that's I got that. I have to help them collect materials so they can rebuild the town. So I might do that, but I'm going to think tonight I'm gonna give it a shot for actually doing the story. I was in.
Well, how many villages have you accomplished? I have 2. I did go with Rito and Zora, and I'm actually kind of glad I have 2 of them because it makes fighting enemies interesting.
I did the opposite, the Gerudo and Goron. So
yeah.
So
I went with the stories I think I would have hated because I hated them off of Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
And because Goron and Gerudos were interesting to me in Breath of the Wild, whereas I like kind of Mipha and Sidon's story, but the whole thing is she's just a fish who's in love with him. In Breath of the Wild, I'm like, oh, okay. And I found Rito.
that meme of that Japanese guy with a bunch of people on top of him with the microphone.
Yeah,
and, like, wood.
Yeah. Oh, damn it, I died. But I feel like, and in Rito Village, it's just that Rivali is so unlikable as a character that I couldn't wait to get the hell out of Dodge. I know it's Turban or whatever his name is, but Rivali's just a cocky shithead.
No,
and I'm just like, all right. Yeah, he's pretty much Falco. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, this is the crossover. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So that's why I went to appreciate it. And I actually like Tulin's story in Rito. And then working with Sidon, I'm like, he's such a bro. Because Zora is such a weirdly shaped domain because it's a big maze. Getting from there, and there's so many side missions of it, but you're at 85. You're only at 2 domains that have been accomplished, so how can you really? You're gonna break 100 hours.
Oh yeah,
even if you try to push it.
Well, I mean, I've been pretty good at the marathon mission, like the marathon playthroughs. So that's kind of been my thing. That's helped me is putting that together and just doing things nonstop. So I'm kind of.
Well, I took
down a Gleeok for the first time, so that was cool. And I'm just trying to check things off that I want to do in the game. Now, I'm just hitting bucket list stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm starting to finally look at videos on YouTube because I think at the beginning a lot of people were afraid of looking at
spoilers
playthroughs and stuff like that because they didn't want to get spoiled on the story. So I'm not.
And then you're realizing no one does the damn story.
Exactly.
So
that's the
nothing
thing.
to be
Nobody's
afraid
kind of there. So now you can kind of look at so aside from some of the shrines where I'm just kind of like, I don't know what to do here and I can't do this okay. Aside from that, I'm starting to look at like certain missions, certain towns, and be like, okay, what can I do here? And they'll give me a list of stuff that I can do. I'm like, okay, I'll do that one and that one. So I finished as far as the side quests, I finished the Hateno town.
Okay. Which
is,
I have there with Robbie, but I'm not going to attack it.
Yeah, I mean that one is just about like an election and stuff like that. So that it's it's a fine and fun diversion. So I'll do that. I got to Lurelin Village as well. I might do Kakariko because there's some stuff there to get done. And I mean, the cool thing with this is that even if you beat some of the main stuff with the storylines, though, even those places like Zora Domain or Goron City, they'll have their own side quests after that, after you save everybody, so you can kind of just mess around. Which that was not what Breath of the Wild did. Breath of the Wild was like, okay, you finished it, you got the divine beast. All right, move on to the next place. Here it's like, okay, you did this, and now you can see the aftermath. Like everybody's recovering, everybody's doing this, so you can kind of stick around, and you have an incentive to do more. So and that's the cool thing about this game for me, is it feels more organic. And I don't have to. It doesn't feel like I'm forced to do anything. I want to do these things, and that's kind of where, like right now, the last place I left off was the shrine on the side of the. I don't know what the Lanayru is. That where the Zora's?
Yeah, that's actually the shrine I just did.
Yeah, where like there's like some islands and some bridges and stuff on the side, like all the way like to the end of the map there, and. I mean, just this game alone, like I think that this is the other thing, like with the addition of all these caves and stuff now, that's kind of the new thing with this. There's way more depth. So it's not just like what you can see from the surface. It's like all these caves and stuff. And then you just like, oh, let me look inside this hole. And eventually like the hole leads to bigger holes. And you keep going deeper and finding other things. So you
go down the proverbial rabbit hole.
Exactly. And that's this game. That's this game. And I think you and I have gone in like to like a playthrough. It's like, okay, I'm going to play tonight. And you have a plan at the beginning. And you realize 30 minutes in, that plan's not going to happen. You're not going to get done what you intended to do, which is not a bad thing at all. So at least be to this question, Charles, because we're like, I had, I mentioned this on Sunday. Like, are we at a point where we got to have the conversation of where does this land as to like games of all time that you personally have experienced? Is it favorite? Is it best? I mean, I think there's both an objective and subjective.
Yeah, and we try to avoid recency bias as well. Sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I think of game of the years or not game. Well, yeah, you can think of game of the years too, because that's how you do your stuff. But. Like I don't think I've had like nostalgia plays a ton of it of like decisions like this. Like I may have played games that are objectively better than Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but I cannot in my heart of hearts say that there's been a game that I have loved more than Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Well, it creates the idea of, how do I say this? Best game, favorite game. It's with anything. Like, best song by this band is this song, but my favorite, song from this band is this song. And I think games itself. So what you're saying, it's really a twofer. And it's not an easy twofer to go with, because game of the year contention, easy answer is yes. If you can get past the whole, it's just Minecraft for adults, which it really is. I'm sorry, but there is an adventure game somewhere. But Francisco and I are not interested, apparently, in finding out that adventure game just yet.
Yeah,
eventually,
will be there.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. Ganondorf will be there. So I guess I'll approach it twofold for you, and I feel like that's been my answer to a lot of things today. So this is a twofold answer. I like it severely more than Breath of the Wild. I found Breath of the Wild was the arbitrary, you need to play this for your Switch. And when I played it, I found it to be very arbitrary. And I haven't played every single Zelda game known to mankind. The games are fucking hard, guys. I am 33, so the best games that came out, which were Ocarina and Majora's Mask, revered by so many people, I was 9. I am not that smart. I'm not even street smart, for God's sakes, but I have made it in life by pure confident dumbassery, luck, and then just spite. And sometimes those Zelda games don't came into it. Mike, I have full knowledge of it. I have understanding of it. and my exposure's there. So Breath of the Wild was like my third or fourth foray into a Zelda game. And I was like, oh, okay, it was good. It was amazing. I put 62 hours in, but I felt that it was also like false advertisement where it says you could do anything you want or however you want. Not necessarily true. It was so different because you're no longer doing dungeons, which were confusing. Now you're just waiting for these big animals, but you can literally do what you want, how you want, when you want. And so it is, what is it? It's liberating because it was different. And when I got to this game and I was like, what do I want to do? Ooh, I got all these porgies now. And I want to do, there's like, you could do anything you want to fucking do. And I'm like, no, I was reading some of those reviews. When the games I actually want to play come around, I try my hardest not to read reviews. I just look for the 9s or 10s or the 7s. If it's like a 6, I'm like, all right, was it this kind of game? Who's it tailored for? And with Zelda, I felt it was going to be the 9 range. And I got there and I read it and I'm like, all right, but I put in those first 3 hours and there was 2 things that came to mind about this game. Holy shit, this is a lot. Yeah. And then 2, this is already better to me than Breath of the Wild because how they, what you have to do, but what was it that I told you in the chat? How is it explained to me how you have a game that follows a game of the year that was actually much more much better at everything aptitude wise? It is what Breath of the Wild was said to be. Is my statement to you. So like right now we're at 9.5 and I haven't pushed story. And I will say this, there's a lot of it that I'm not confused by the story. I know it's emotionally heartfelt, but I haven't got that. But it's the sense of exploration and want and desire. And, the problem is 20 hours of this game, the 55 hours I give you, I would say probably 10 to 15 hours, not 20, has been when you told me, oh no, you were doing the chasms wrong. I'm like, fucking what? What do you mean? I'm like, there's some dark spots and shit, man. Like going from there. And you're like, no, you have to actually go fight the moblins and go into the mines. And that
find stuff. Yeah.
It just changed everything. I'm like, I'm just going to light the way. I'm like, no, because when I first got to the chasms, like, this is spooky. I don't want to do that. Then it became like, no, this is like my favorite part of the game. I don't care about the sky stuff. That's so weird, right? Because the whole premise of it is you're in the skies. The sky's
kind of, well, yeah, that's what the trailer showed, right? I thought we'd be more up there, and they completely hid the entire underworld, which was what hit. That's when it hit me. That's when it hit me when I first went down the chasm for the first time. Just like, oh,
you're like, oh no,
because like with the skies, you see like, there's some islands up there, but I'm like, okay, I've done that in Skyward Sword. There weren't that many.
I paraglide everywhere. There's nothing new to this.
Twilight Princess had some sky stuff too. Like it's okay, fine. But then like, and they look kind of sparse, right? There's not like that many of them that you can see up there.
I just found a chasm as we're talking right now.
This is Breath of the Wild with some stuff in the sky. All right, so, and then I get down in the chasm. I'm just like, oh, this game's like 3 times bigger than the first one.
Yeah,
and that's when I knew, like, all right, well, this just went from 75 to 100 hours.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's more interesting. It's so much more interesting.
Yeah,
there's a dynamic that I cannot explain to you. I'm seeing a chasm right now. It's just
everything's deliberate. Every single hill, every single rock, every single thing, everything's placed in such a way that it doesn't feel like they hit a randomizer. It's like, no, we put this specific mushroom right here because you're gonna go. It's like you're gonna be down on mushrooms. You're gonna go look at that, and then you're gonna find out when you turn that corner, oh, there's a lake, and that lake, it leads to a waterfall, and that waterfall has a cave inside of it, and inside that cave is a Hinox, and that Hinox has a treasure, and that treasure is one of the sage's wills, and it's like,
And what I will add to that is that you don't figure out how to actually do the game immediately. It is something that you do as you learn, and when I say learn, it's the adaptability of it. And I'll give you an example. You can fuse stuff, right? You can fuse the weaponry and do all this great stuff.
We were dumb people at the beginning of this game.
I'm still dumb because I'm going to give you the greatest example when it comes to like combat.
You're like, I put a sword on a sword.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing.
Well, so we talk about combat, because you typically.
Just before I use it, I reached the Gerudo place, and you reach the Gerudo princess's like bedroom, whatever, and she has like these like walrus, like the sand seal.
The tusks.
Remember the sand seals?
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, she has like those like these plushie dolls, and so I'm just like, I took out the fuse thing. I'm like, let me see if I can do this, and I fused a seal onto a sword. I'm like, haha, I have a dumb seal plush sword.
Jesus Christ, that's
just
great.
Not thinking whatsoever. Just like, let me just see if this works, and you can do it, but it's not recommended for later on in the game when you're facing off against these giant constructs and all that stuff.
So, so with that, when we talk about adapting to certain things, I had a situation where, the villains are not hard if you have the right gear, and I know that sounds very common, but I finally got to fight against Phantom Ganon.
Yep.
And 55 hours, kids. I literally did not use a puff shroom, and I'm like, I'm not the best at dodging.
Yeah.
Parrying. It is very. I feel like it is missing a little bit of the sequence there to fit. So instead,
compared to like Wind Waker just had like the press A. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm like, all right. But what I did was like, well, what if I just hit like a puff shroom on this bitch? Yeah. And it did, and he got confused. That's 50 hours into the game. Yeah. You would think I figured out, but it's when the situation demands it. That's when you realize it. Is what I'm saying.
The same thing with me and the Dazzle Fruit. I'm like,
I use Dazzle Fruit all the time for the groups.
I haven't used this at all, and I'm just like, I can just like blind everybody. Okay, that's cool. So just kind of willing myself and just kind of brute forcing my way, and then finishing with one heart, and then I have to eat like 50 fishes in order to recover my health.
Yeah. So to originally answer your question, because I avoided it, coming with it is you ask about, where it is on memorable stuff. I have to finish the story to get that answer.
Okay.
What I will tell you is I find the game to be therapeutic, which is very rare for games. It's like one of those things where if I had a long day, I want to be able to do something to keep my mind off of whatever, and it could be there because it allows me to listen to it by itself, which is a very good soundtrack. It allows me to listen to an audiobook if I'm going to screw around. It allows me to have callbacks to Breath of the Wild that stays true to those fun portions of it. And then with me, the flip side to that is to do those things that we spoke about. You need time. And it could be a game where you can literally waste an hour and a half if you're just going to do shrines or look for dragon tears or something without issue. But if you got a good 3, 4, 5 hours, that's when you really just marathon the hell out of it for the story parts of it. For myself, that's my view with it. I mean, if I had to end a rating today, it's 9.5.
Yeah.
And it's always hard to go 10. I feel like there's
very few. I mean, that the 10 is a game that that spoke to you, and had with the mechanics of everything that you wanted, like from objective standpoint. So like, of course, like Sonic 3 Knuckles is a 10 out of me, and I could give you objective reasons why that 10, but it'll get you the 9.9. But that last 1% is all just like love for the hedgehog, right?
Yeah. But a 9 is a great thing. The problem is the only people who care about the ratings that we have at the end of the day are the people who have, something to go with it, I think. So it's just the mindsets. What do you want to work with? I think that it's a good game. It's fantastic. It makes me feel things. I've had that sense of wonderment that games don't give you. And a lot of times there's cheap thrills, but I was just going through a chasm, and then I just ran into the dragon, Finral. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm flying down, man. I don't know if you had that situation. Go down there,
and I saw him for the first time. I'm like, holy crap, you're here, Joe?
Yeah. I didn't have them either. And all of a sudden I see them like, what the hell? And then because I was so in awe of them being there, you know what happened? My wooden stuff burned.
You know what's the cool thing? Like, I remember in Breath of the Wild seeing the dragons for the first time. I'm like, holy crap, there's a dragon.
Yep.
But then like after the third time, you're just like, dragon.
That's dragon. Yeah.
But here it was just like, I saw, okay, cool, the dragons are back, right? And then like you're down in the chasm, and then you see, you're here too. Holy crap, it's the dragon. And have you gotten on top of a dragon?
No, because I burned, but I've shut their scales and I've shut their tusks. I've gotten on top of it because that's how I got to Finral. I'm like, what's up, guy? And I got burned up.
Oh, but you can. You just need to have the right You need to have like the flame guard.
Okay. Well, I'm
you
not
get that
there
in the
yet.
Goron stuff.
Yeah.
So you can get
I'm
on
not
top
there
of
yet.
them, and they have like you can like chip off the crusts off their scales, and that'll be worth stuff.
All right. I think to answer a couple more of your questions, and then maybe we'll proceed on to a different point of it. I find it to be very therapeutic. I'm invested a little bit into it with the mystery of what they want to go with. I like I like the vibe of it. I don't I still, even though with all the sense of exploration of auto build, what I find interesting is I still choose to go on my horse
Yeah.
and ride out, and that's the thing that's very nice about it. But you know what's interesting? I really couldn't stand the shrines in Breath of the Wild,
Yeah.
and here I like it, and I couldn't tell you the reason why I like it more because it's fundamentally a base game that they improved on. But I don't use auto build for everything because I don't think you're supposed to use auto build for everything until you get to where we're at point wise anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's when you could just do things and go from there.
I think the reason they did it that way is to force you to be creative.
Yeah.
To
Well, I
think,
love the creativity.
yeah, they force you to kind of think about it, but by the time you get auto build, it's just out of convenience than anything else. And it still forces you to be creative because if you build some wacky stuff, the auto build will save that as your last thing, so you can and you can save it as a favorite. So that guy who made Metal Gear Rex can always pull out a Metal Gear Rex now in the game. And
Well,
I'm speaking of Metal Gear. This is
you haven't talked about Delta yet.
well, I mean we haven't, but I don't have a PS5, and I'm going to hope it'll be a PC thing. But I just played Metal Gear Solid 3 last year. But regardless, if they do like the Final Fantasy stuff, where it's like it's the same storyline at a baseline standpoint, but some changes here and there. But because I think that's kind of the only way they can get away with it without pissing off the people who are like diehard Kojima fans. And I'm sure I'm not. Well, I would assume the guys working on it over there in Konami, the actual developers, not the the big wigs who don't give a shit, that cast him out. I'm sure they are probably going to treat it with the utmost respect, because that is like, of all the games they chose, that's probably the one that's the highest pressure to get right. Yeah, that's the fan favorite of the series for most people. I didn't play it when it came out, so I don't have the sort of nostalgia for it. I love 5, and that's kind of what I was comparing with Breath of the Wild, like 5 and Death Stranding. Like, I don't play many open world games, so there's very few for me to kind of compare to. And I'll play Just Cause eventually after this, and I've played that a little bit. It's dumb fun, but I like the mechanics of Breath of the Wild kind of keep me going and keep me doing things and getting clever, and that's the kind of the way I felt when I played Metal Gear Solid 5. It's the same way. The controls just kind of made sense to me. So that's the other thing. But yeah, Delta's coming out. It looks, I mean, we just had a CG trailer, so we don't really know what it's going to look like. But if they use what they used in Metal Gear Solid 5, then it should be fun. I kind of just want to see how they do that. Do they make that open world in a sense, where because 5 Metal Gear Solid 3 is just kind of, it's, for the most part, it's pretty linear. You go from one place to the other. You do this, you cross this part of the jungle, and then you move to this and you find this guy. There's different ways you can handle the stuff in that sort of, in those little playgrounds that they give you. You can do all kinds of ways. You don't have to take out any enemies. There's so much you can do in Metal Gear Solid 3 that I've seen on YouTube that I'm too dumb or impatient to pull off. But,
such as fighting the end. You're not going to wait 45 minutes until he just falls asleep.
Well, I actually didn't play the game for a week so that he could just die. Because I played it on Xbox, and so it has a timer. If I played it on an emulator on PC, I probably would have just skipped it ahead anyways. But no, I found out that you could do that. Okay, fine. I'll just not play it for a week and come back to it, and lo and behold, he's dead. So I'm like, okay, cool. that boss. I didn't have to do that boss fight, so that's cool.
That's fantastic. That is such a cheap route. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, so like I don't know how we love. So this is how I'm gonna do this intro. We love Kojima here. After we played Death Stranding, I was like done because 5 was one of my entry level Metal Gear games because I never really finished a lot of the Metal Gears. We were in the era of renting games, and I had rented Sons of Liberty. I had rented the original one on the PS1, which is still good, I would say, from the top-down perspective. And I had rented, of course, Snake Eater. I skipped Guns of the Patriots, even though I could have gotten it. It's like, I could have got it you can get it at GameStop like for $10 now if you really wanted to.
It's only on PS3, so I also thought I also was gonna assume like if they didn't do I thought they would do 1. Like the popular choice was either redo 1. I didn't think they'd go for 3. I honestly didn't think they'd go for 3.
They were going to go for 3 because 3 is everybody's favorite, even though my favorite one that I have done was 5.
Yeah.
Phantom Pain was the 80 hours. And like you talk about the open world exploration that we love so much about Zelda now. I was like, oof, buddy. It was great. So he did that. And then Death Stranding was a different kind of open world where I didn't have to go deliver underwear. I'm just going to do it because I want to have established ties to the community as we're just trying to get past this catastrophic event that happened.
So, I thought they do. I didn't think they do. And then like the Dark Horse was like, oh, they're just going to remake the first original Metal Gear, which I thought would have actually been pretty cool to see because hardly anybody's
the
played
8-bit.
Yeah. Hardly anybody's ever played that storyline. And I have, but once again, it's still an 8-bit MSX game. So it's not really accessible to everybody, and I thought they'd go that route, but I didn't think they'd do 3. But hey, they're doing it, and the other one I didn't think they'd do this, but like 4 is not available on anything else, so I would have also assumed they could have done 4 but I think 4 is just kind of a weird one. 4 is like story wise, Kojima didn't even want to make it.
Yeah,
so,
they're like, you just have to do something with it.
Yeah, like he didn't want to make it, and so 4 will probably like never be re-released again, or at least not in, like for another decade or something. Like they're not.
They did the Metal Gear, I can't speak. They announced also the Metal Gear Legacy that's going to have the OG 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, but
ported,
4
essentially.
is never.
Which is so weird because it's revered.
It's PS3. That's why the PS3 is kind of weird. PS3 games are weird. That's why, like, if you're gonna collect now,
collect that.
PS3 is probably because you're gonna you're gonna get more exclusives because they had more exclusives, and like everything that was on Xbox you can get for cheap or is probably already on PC. So, but like PS3's exclusive stuff from Sony, like they've pretty much remade everything, Uncharted, and a bunch of other stuff. But like the exclusive third-party stuff, you're probably not going to see. So if you're going to do that for PS3, you go for third-party exclusives on PS3. Those are the ones you go for, because those are probably not going to be remade ever. Anyways,
so let me ask you a follow-up question. After Zelda, what's the choice? What's the decision?
Well,
what follows that grand task?
That's kind of my dilemma. We talked about cooler games. You had one lined up and you haven't even gotten.
I was so wrong. What
was it? What were you gonna pick?
It was gonna be Division 2.
Oh,
something
no.
that is
Ubisoft
systematically, something that's so it's perfect though. Something that's so systematically Zelda that it's just a grinder shooter. It's the perfect cooler game when you think about it. Because I was expecting, like, all right, I'm gonna go like 40 hours and I'm going to be like fatigued a little bit to which I have to take a break. So I was going to go for mind-numbing destruction. The problem is that I'm not fatigued. So Division 2 will still be on there. I got it for like $3 like 3 years ago, man. Like I appreciate those sales when they happen. But man, you're in the tougher position because I'm very happy I played Sifu, which I loved, before.
It's been on sale lately.
So. I mean, I've been eyeing it. Daddy been eyeing it for you. You know, I'm glad I played it before Tears of the Kingdom, because I think I would not have appreciated Tears of the Kingdom. I'm sorry, Sifu after Tears of the Kingdom. You know, and I said that if it does take me, Zelda will take me to July. I think, you know, I do a little bit more in life to which sometimes I'll just, not play a game. Sometimes I just come home when I'm tired, guys.
Yeah.
Like you got to understand, your boy does a lot, even though he says he doesn't do a lot. It's weird. But I think it'll take me to July unless I'm not really done. So I have some opportunity because I was like thinking, nah, shit, this is going to take me to Spider-Man, which is September, October. But now I have some ideas. I have my game set for spooky season, which is funny because I picked up Alan Wake Remastered now for $12. And I'm like very happy with that. So we have that portion. Because I have to have Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 4. So Resident Evil 3 is only like 7 hours long. Resident Evil 4 I know is going to be 19, and Alan Wake is like 13 hours. So this actually is perfect for the month of October. I kind of don't want to do Sonic because Sonic is a clear-cut payout of Breath of the Wild, and there's some DLC. Yeah, and I need to take a break from my Switch.
Yeah, Sonic, you wait. You wait for Sonic. You wait to see how that DLC is going to turn out. Because they're supposed to have extra characters, and that'll because depending on how you feel, like Sonic can be 15 hours if you want it to be, or it could be 20 if you really do like the mechanics and want to play some of the levels and stuff like that. I mean, for me, I already told my coolers from Zelda. I played a little bit of Splatoon, but not much.
Well, I mean, that's not even like cooler though. I'm talking about like what game is stuff. Splatoon is kind of necessary as just a multiplayer, when everything happens.
And the new season has come out and I haven't even touched it, so that'll be interesting when I finally do too. But I just don't feel like it. And I've played a little Rocket League as well just to do a little something different. But like lately, I mean, we got a bunch of SNK stuff, so I did play a couple of the fighting games. And those are nice because they're bite-sized. I think that's kind of what's going to help me transition out of Zelda because this is just massive, right? Massive. So, like, afterwards, if the cooler is going to be smaller retro titles, I think, then I'm going to have, like, a line of them before I get to something more substantial, which is I'm eyeing Bayonetta just to get it out.
I think it kind of, you got to do some games objectively without having that influence. Yeah. I don't know if you'd be doing yourself a solid because Bayonetta is a very good game. I gave it an 8, and it's an 8. That's what it is. It's 15 hours. It's short and sweet.
Yeah.
But it's gonna just play out differently. I feel that where you're gonna be like, oh, what the hell?
Well, I mean, either way, but I still think that's why I'm gonna have a buffer between the games with retro stuff. Like, luckily, I have all these SNK games. Nintendo just came out with 4 retro games, and one of them is Kirby's Tilt and Tumble. So
there you go.
That'll be fun for me. And I don't think there's anything. I mean, aside from that, I have stuff on PC, which my PC does need some love lately. My Xbox One, which I bought,
just died.
I'm so glad. I'm very glad. Like, you keep saying, like, oh, the Xbox Series X. Like, dude, are you? I know you don't pay for anything, but even then, I'd still be like, you're not really getting bang for your buck.
Yeah, but
and it's not like I don't. It's not because I hate the Xbox or anything like that. I think it's just that what's worthwhile. Redfall didn't get good reviews. It came out.
I sent you a link for Deathloop.
I've seen Deathloop on PC, so I'm glad I have my PC just for that. And there's some games, right? I got all these Just Cause games, but I don't want to play that on the heels of Zelda because it doesn't make sense to me. I've got. What else is on my PC? There's a bunch of good stuff that's out there, man. I was gonna send you a screenshot of like my organizer now. I have a brand new organizer on my PC that has everything, and they have different themes. So I have it themed to like the PS5 theme,
nice.
For the menu. So when I turn on my PC, I can have it set to go straight to that, but I don't. But when I do turn it on, I just have it as if I have a PS5. So I kind of sort of have your experience right now.
It's great. I think I need myself. I need to give my Switch a break. Because I went hard into it. My PS5 is be like, you bought Ramona for me. I'm like, no, bitch, I bought Ramona for God of War. That's the whole end all be all. But I'll take care of you. Spider-Man's coming. You saw that trailer. I might just buy something. I have $250 worth of credit somewhere, in totality that I can use. $97 in GameStop, like 125 in Best Buy cards, points that I have. When some people travel, I don't mind traveling, but the whole thing is that, what I can pay in a game, games are $70. I'm not okay with that. I understand the industry needs it, but I am not okay with that. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm kind of collective, because $70 is, good alcohol, great meals, part of it travel ticket. And when I buy games, I'm talking about like, what's my length and what's the longevity. I just might buy a random game digitally and just get that and get points for it, because I have Switch games of the wazoo. My PlayStation games are there, but there's nothing really to stop me from getting. I'm not on. I liked Harry Potter growing. I love Harry Potter. Go to that. Maybe I'll get the Hogwarts game now.
Okay.
To kind of be like, all right, let me get that 7, or the Diablo came out, but the problem is Activision. So, I know it's a Blizzard. I know it's going to kind of be wonky, and it's already had launch issues, so I don't feel comfortable buying a Diablo game just yet, because I did play Diablo 3, but I could just take a chance. I could roll the dice on something, because we're closer to October now. We're 4 months away. I want to hold out for Alan Wake Remastered and for Resident Evil 4. I don't want to start them yet. Maybe I can get away with doing Alan Wake Remastered if I feel I'm going to buy Alan Wake 2 immediately day one, which is a possibility, because that's the thing about gift cards. I can sit on them, but August is right around the corner, so I'm getting a total of like probably $100 of gift cards coming into it.
And I'm interested. I want to start chipping away at that universe, since
Remedy makes games I like.
I really did like Control, and you do get to play one mission that's Alan Wake related, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Well, we're at an hour and 7 minutes. So we'll just do word from our non-sponsors. People, places, things, constants, what have you. And yeah, very gaming heavy right now, but Panthers made me sad. So,
well, right now it's quiet time in sports as it is, because the next part of it's going to be the Heat. I mean, baseball. We can talk about baseball lightly, but let's do it. We'll make it to a baseball show.
Over 500 and are in second place in the NL East, 3 games back, and have the third wild card spot this deep into the season. So yeah, things are okay for baseball for me. So that's where I'm at. Anyways, yeah. All right. So I guess I'll get mine out the way. So I guess since I started, since my sister had her kids, I've kind of always tried to instill my values into them, right? Because Charles, your sister has failed you with your nephew's a Boston Celtics fan.
Well, let's see what he is if the Heat win. All I'm saying. This boy had the nerve when I said I'm looking at Game 3 prices. Like, let me know. I'm like, you are 15 years old. You do not have that kind of money. You do not have that kind of money. I barely have that kind of money.
Yeah. But I've been trying to instill the values, right? We give him the first plushies of, I give him my nephew, my oldest one, his he had a fox and a little Pikmin one, right? Plushie. My niece has her Yoshis. She loves Yoshi. And my nephew, his first birthday, I gave him a Meta Knight plush, right?
That's a good choice.
Yeah. So, but it's been a bit slow going with getting my nephew, my oldest one, because it starts with the oldest, to get on board with the video games. My niece has been kind of she's at least interested, right? She's but my nephew's kind of been more on board with like toys and stuff like that, and all these stuff that he sees on YouTube, which is intriguing and sad at the same time with that. But he's dabbled a bit with the gaming, just dabbled.
Yeah.
Right. We have Clubhouse games, and they have like a little tank game there, and he's played that. He really likes that because it's simple little tanks and stuff, but it's not deep. It's not deep at all. So there was that. He's seen my sister play like Mario and Rabbids, of course. They're fun. It's fun to watch, right? And anything that'll have like tanks or firefighters, things like that, he'll he'll try and gravitate to. There's Pokemon Go on his iPad along with my niece. But he hasn't latched on to anything. And now he has. Charles, that game is Mario Kart 64.
Oh boy.
So that's my non-sponsor, because that goes back, Charles. That goes back for me as well. Back to 1997. 1998. Right, when I got my N64. When me and my sister was in high school still, right? Like her last 2 years of high school before she went to Florida State. And I was still in elementary school. And yeah, Mario Kart 64, just the game that solidified the gaming connection between me, my sister, and my dad. Because we played that game every night, Charles. Every night we had like a little tournament each night to see who'd win that night of round of Mario Kart. We played like almost every single track in that game on a nightly basis. So Mario Kart 64 has always been a Mario Kart in general, but like 64 was the catalyst. I played Super Mario Kart. I can see why some people like it, but it just, doesn't latch on to me when 64 is just so much better. And, Double Dash came after that, DS, all these other ones, and now we got 8. But 64 was the one. And I gave away my N64 to some cousins and stuff like that, so I didn't have it no more. Comes to the Wii, of course I rebuy it, right? Of course the magic is back. And then recently an N64 on the Switch, and it was there. It was cool and all, but I don't have time with my sister and stuff like that. She has all these games and she barely has time to play it. But I don't know how. But eventually, my cousin kind of, my nephew kind of just saw it being played. I guess, I don't know if I was playing with my dad or something like that, but he just kind of latched onto it. It's all battle mode, balloon battles, and he's obsessed with it now.
How old is he? 7?
He is 7 years old. Just the ripe age to get into your gaming fix. So, kids' brains are developing, things like that. I, of course, latched on to gaming earlier when I was like 4 and 5 years old, just because I saw my sister do it, right? But now he has. Now he's as my mom says in Spanish, él encontró el sabor. And you know what that means. He found the taste. He has the taste for gaming.
He's got the hit.
Yep, it's the first one, and it's quite a game, Charles. It's quite a game to have your first one. So yeah, it's Mario Kart 64. I mean, what else can I say? It's promo code family.
Sweet. Mine's kind of weird because it's not something that I get often, but it's something I've been noticing that I've been wanting the last couple days. So when I talk about me dieting, I am not this terrible person who has health issues and anything like that by any means, kids. It's more or less that I am a danger to myself sometimes with sugar, because just like Pringles, once a pop, the fun don't stop, and that's how I am sometimes coming into it. And the last couple of days, I got a lot of stressors going on, and I don't stress eat. I just eat because I want to eat. That's the mentality. But I've been like, I need to treat myself. And some people treat themselves with buying things. Some people treat themselves by drinking or doing some psychoactive drugs. That's not me. I'm kind of cheap, and I don't think I could survive on mushrooms. Not my cup of tea. Instead, because how my schedule's kind of been, I haven't really been sitting down and eating. I've just been kind of going to Wawa's to get like a wrap or something like that. Wawa's is not my sponsor. All gas stations are ripoffs when it comes to things are priced, if I could just be so very honest. But there was a treat that I got there that I wanted, that I needed, that was going to happen. And I think it's one of my debatably like favorite candy bars that I get when I get it that you don't see a lot of people go for, and I understand why. But Wawa's had a two, for like $5.50 on Hershey's cookie and cream chocolate bars. So it's like the Hershey bars, but the cookies and cream,
Yes,
coating
those
with
are
the
pretty damn
crackles.
good, man.
I know, and it was just
Those
like
are solid.
cookies and cream, just all across the board, is fantastic. In that sense, it's one of my favorite ice creams. It's essentially, concept of an Oreo cookie. If you think on things, which we love Oreos here, you guys have heard me do things to my body with Oreos, but I'm like, all right, do I want it? Because I was going between this and Arnold Palmer, but I think I've sponsored Arnold Palmer before, if memory serves me correct. You can't go wrong with 99 cents, guys. I don't know how Arizona is able to keep it just 99 cents, but this has that sweetness, that little bit of that tang that kicks the mouth, the crunchiness that comes in details. It is bad for you. Don't even look up at that nutritional information. But we don't eat candy bars.
Well, it's 220 calories.
It's all you look at them sugars.
Well, I was looking at, say 10% total carbs.
Yeah, I didn't mention
grams of sugar.
I didn't mention that what I bought was the king size, did I? Sorry, because it is go big or go home. I'm doing the mathematics. I'm like, all right, for 75 cents more, I'll just get the big size.
The 4-ounce one. Is that
yeah,
that's the big one. That's the big boy.
El
XL?
Honcho, the XL baby.
Oh my god.
King size. Oh, I didn't get the XL. I just got the thing that's king size.
Okay, well apparently there is an XL, so it's out there. It's out there.
But so like it is just I like Hershey's Symphony chocolate as well, which is a little bit richer in that texture. But the cookies and cream though, when I want it, when I need it, when I gotta have it, it's gonna go into it because I'll eat candy. I think you guys have heard my love about Nerd gummy clusters. I don't know if I professed it on a show as a non-sponsor, but we love those. But when I want some chocolate bars, yeah, I can go with my Milky Way. Yeah, I can go with some Kit Kats. Yeah, I can go with some of the other stuff that's out there. But this to me is the only available accessible cookies and cream variant, unless I'm mistaken. Please, if I'm wrong, everybody DM me. Let me know. I need to know these things.
Candy? Yeah, I would assume so.
So I'm going to go on the deep dive of it now. I have to, but it is delicious. It is sweet. It's my cup of tea. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I bought 2. I had one yesterday, and I have one that I'm going to have tomorrow in my satellite office as I deliberate what I'm going to have for lunch. So that's it. Hershey's Cookies and Cream Candy Bar, promo code SABOR.
There we go. Yeah, that's these are solid, man. I'm not a candy guy by any stretch of the imagination. Like if I have candy, it's that or Kit Kat or even a Twix. Twix is pretty damn good.
Twix is good, yeah.
But aside from that, and maybe even a Crunch Bar every once in a while.
Man, it's been a while, but a good Nestle Crunch Bar can go a long way.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to do the drafting of the candies at this point one day, but you're not a candy person.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Speaking of spookies, I have a ton of like horror video games that are like, or horror or like dark themed sci-fi video games that are in like the massive PC backlog, and I just have never gotten to them. Like last year, I went for Being the Scary Thing by Being Manhunter.
Yeah,
Maneater. Yeah, Maneater. So that's that was my October game. But then that was it. So I've got a bunch of them, and I just haven't really touched any of them out there. So eventually I'll try this October to pick at least one. So Maneater was the one last year, but maybe I'll try and get something more substantial. But yeah, for Halloween, sure. Let's see, hour 19. So baseball's happening. I had the Marlins game.
Jacob DeGrom
6-1. The Yankees are losing to the White Sox right now.
Interesting.
3-0 at this point. And Jake DeGrom is now out again.
They broke him
for Tommy John surgery. I mean, he's always been broken. It's not like they broke him. He's just something new has happened to him now. So he's gone for the rest of the season and until next year. Maybe sometime he'll be back. So I mean,
he's only into year 1 in that 5-year contract, man.
Yep. The Rangers spent a ton of money, and they might blow up on them. And they've started okay. They've had a good start to the season, so it's not like it was in vain. But but he's out. He's out. So, they're in first place. We'll see if that's one less starter for them. Aside from that, I don't know. There's not much else for baseball. The Mets are kind of so-so, and that's laughable. So that's
if I may, because we had a little bit of Pettydorf.
Yep.
You know who's not in first place?
I
could be in first place in a very long time for many seasons to come. Alex Cora and the Boston Red Sox. For those who are wondering, I really don't. Yeah, 30-30. I really don't care nor have interest in creating rivalries that are non-existent between teams. It doesn't matter. You're supposed to, my philosophy. You're supposed to hate everybody that you're going against because they are in your way of winning, right? Plain and simple. But when it comes to Alex Cora, the man who somehow fleeced a lifetime ban to just one season, who fleeced being unemployed with the organization that he won one title with, debatably cheating or not, but Rob Manfred didn't want to investigate, and was able to come back, and they fired whoever was in charge ahead of time for that one season as a lame duck. I'm going to hate. I'm going to be petty. I'm going to bring it on. It's one thing if you tell me that AJ Hinch gets to keep his job, even though he's not really doing much in Detroit, but apparently being in the AL Central, doing nothing is still fine enough as it is to succeed, because you could be the bare minimum there because the Twins are so bad. And I don't even know what's going on with the manager or the general manager, if he ever got that job opportunity again or not. Whatever, not my concern, not my problem. But the fact that Alex Cora blatantly cheated his way leading into the championship, World Series championship, winning it, and you just gave nothing more than 1 year when there's plenty of people who can't even get into a Hall of Fame debate, Pete Rose, when there's people who are not going to be able to come back to baseball because teams have blacklisted him, Trevor Bauer, even though Trevor probably deserves not to be around, right? And this man just gets one scuff. Them being in the murk of futility, because what you're seeing is that this is a manager who, as every year that he's come back, has less talent. They don't have Xander Bogaerts anymore. They ain't got the Mookie. They got Corey Kubler, whose greatest call to arms lately was pitching the perfect game for the Yanks. Yep. He was in Tampa last year, got kicked out. Chris Sale's back on the IL again. Yeah, there's another guy. Don't have franchise dudes anymore.
And guys really don't want to go there.
Guys don't want to go there. You're going to really see if anybody can manage anything out of it. And it's just proving my point, because I don't think that man's going to be there next year. I'm really thinking it. You're going to see, and what if my PlayStation frees up? You're really going to see that he ain't going to be around, that he ain't going to cut out, that he doesn't have the mustard, as my old timers say, the mustard to do certain things. So I'm going to love on that petty hate, because it is eternal as long as he's still employed. And I know what some people are saying, get over it. It's been 5, 6, 7 years. Listen, y'all still think about that. Oh, what if your high school sweethearts? I'm allowed to think about what someone did wrong in sports, deliberately wrong, because plenty of other people. I'll give you a very fine example. Carlos Beltran, who was a player and not an administrator, who was essentially just following orders of what Hinch and Cora were doing, was basically relieved of his duties day one as a Mets manager. And he ain't ever going to come back to manage anything. He's at the Yes broadcast network after he said 1,000 Hail Marys to the Yanks for everything. That's how big it is. That it affected dudes who really technically were in the right. I know it sounds
he's in the Mets. He's with the Mets again.
But he's not managing.
No, he's in the front office.
Okay, but man, you see the dynamic though.
Yeah, he's in the front office, but he hasn't been placed. He's not in a place of like making the big old decisions.
Advisements. Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest here. Let's be very honest here.
He's probably just learning the ropes, and then he'll go from there. He's actually he has to earn his stripes. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, him being I'm looking at it now on this ESPN thing. Yeah, because it was in February of this year. Him being on that means nothing, because we all know that who's it, Cohen, who's the Mets owner, is going to have the final say on everything. Yeah. So that's irrelevant. That's just a trust fund baby equivalent.
Well, yeah, and Steve Cohen's is an actual Mets fan, so he just wants Carlos Beltran around. Exactly.
So like that's the seismic downward shift of how the trickle down effect of Cora, and we just give him 1 year. The pettiness is going to stay. He can go to Pittsburgh. I'll be petty on it. He can go to the Blue Jays. I'll be petty on it. Goes to the Yankees. I'll be like, God damn it. It is Andrew's equivalent of Urban Meyer going to Jacksonville, for that one setup, except I actually hate Alex Cora. And I think Andrew just hated Meyer just to hate Meyer because that's what you're supposed to do in college football. You know what I mean? Seriously, it is. Urban Meyer, you just have to hate him by default. If you don't hate Urban Meyer, I got a problem with you. I'm like, what? Like, let's talk real quick. So that's baseball right now. It's still too early for me to care about the standings, though. I think we're like 6 games behind. You can't get an idea because the whole thing is a lot of teams that are at the forefront got good with injuries that delayed them. The Rays are looking very human. Coming from us. The Central, it's the Twins and the Guardians of Cleveland's coming up, but
Central is the worst division.
Centrals. I can't give much into the Rangers because Houston's just right there. We've seen it. We saw that
They've
when it was
been there, so it's not like
we've seen
the
that.
Angels are mediocre as always.
Yeah, we saw that when it was Padres Dodgers when they were supposed to be the new shiny and then the experienced one out. Atlanta, Miami. I mean, like Socorro's not doing good. My paralegal's a Braves fan. His birthday's tomorrow, so hopefully, he doesn't cry over this podcast where I say, hey, the Braves are much more weaker than anticipated because everybody's not doing good. Why is Marcell Ozuna on that team? Pittsburgh Pirates and Milwaukee Brewers, what that's all about. And then I cannot give much credence to the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers flipping. Arizona has this tendency of being like a front-running team for the first quarter and everything goes on. I will laugh at the death of the San Diego Padres.
Of course.
Yeah, because when all y'all were
gone. He is gone.
Oh yeah. When y'all were cheering on for that team last year because they were going to the NLCS, I was going for the narrative, hey, let's get Joe Girardi's successor just to show that, hey, that people are better than Joe Girardi. Sorry. It's not coming from there. But baseball's baseball. We have, I think, 5 Cole jobs. If I did the math correctly, or 4 Cole jobs, I'll give you more. He's at 6-0. His ERA blew up a little bit, but he's had a couple of no decisions. I'm satisfied. The Yanks are doing this without Carlos Rodon, and then everybody else is injured. So that's why I feel a little bit of confidence because to attack the division, and I keep up with the AL East a lot. So I'm going to attack it and focus on this, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
I am confident with the team that could maneuver with injury compared to what happened in Tampa if Orozarano or Wander Franco got hurt or, whoever else is out there. They're pitching. Glasnow, I think, is coming back. Baltimore, I don't know what they would be able to do with Adley Rushman. Toronto, man, that's a clusterfuck of wannabe potential. Big game.
They just sent down Alek Manoah.
Yeah.
They're one of their premier pitchers because he's broken.
Broken.
They're sending him down to the spring training complex in Dunedin just to fix him again.
And how do you fix somebody?
He's going to be playing in Florida State League games in single A, just trying to fix himself.
Yeah, that's concerning because it's his area flop. And mind you, when it comes to baseball pitching, one pitcher doesn't necessarily turn the tide.
I didn't know I forgot that the Blue Jays changed their manager to this dude. This guy does not look like he should be a major league manager.
Well, we remember we talked about it last year because I said
we didn't do this, and we should do this at the beginning of every season. The handsomest managers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were some new ones that came into the season, and the Marlins got a premier handsome manager and Skip Shoemaker.
Skip is up there. Yeah. I forgot who I said. I mean, we had Daddy
Gabe Kapler.
But maybe we'll position as new hires versus reigning champion.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the only way we could do it because some teams.
Maybe we'll do that as our last episode.
Yeah, we can do that because
we'll go back to actually being goofy,
and then we can kind of. Yeah, because these NBA and NHL, we actually have to talk about it and be precise about it, and just
so weird.
Baseball is whatever. Anyways, all right. Let's see. We're at an hour 30, so let's go. NBA, let's do it. They got one. They got one, Charles.
Uno.
They got one.
I am sorry, Heat Twitter. I've been liking and following and stuff like that, but I can't be that person. I was saying sweep because
what kind of person? What are we talking about?
I was being the person of like, I cannot objectively give myself hope here. I was
Okay.
Hawkeye in Endgame saying, don't give me hope, because you talk about the Panthers and I was going to say this and I realized my own team's in the finals this year. You do not know true pain as a sports fan until your team actually gets to the finals and lose. I rather we don't even touch the playoffs at all, as opposed to being that position. In life, you have to find success to its merits, to what is absolute for you, with no compromise. And it's very draconian. It is Machiavellian, but it is true, because that's the way the sports mentality ought to be. I don't want to be the Boston Celtics banners that want to go up and say, hey, 55-27, baby. I don't want to be some of the other sports teams that celebrate AL, East Division winners, wink, wink, or, made it to the World Series. You want the World Series because you always want to end up being on top. And the greatest heartbreak and the greatest disappointment as a fan base, and of course as a player, is to be at that mountain. And we can succeed in 2020.
See the summit and it's still not there.
Because isn't that what we're all here for?
Yeah.
The Olympics to me
didn't. Never, once again, surprise, like this is the first time since 96, and they didn't win a single, they got swept in 96.
Mm-hmm.
And they're down 2-0 now. So they've never won a game in the final.
In the Stanley Cup finals. And you have to figure out how you essentially want to get massacred.
2011 was painful for the Heat for me as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
And even 2014 was painful.
2014 was very rough.
I still feel like if San Antonio's air conditioning didn't break in that one game, that we would have had that series.
Well, the issue with 2014 is, but not for Pop figuring out the equation.
Yeah.
Would we had LeBron who stayed?
Yeah, and that was young Spo, I think.
Yeah. Could we got 3 more years of LeBron? I always felt he was going to leave Miami anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was not going to go back to Cleveland if if
he had gotten
we had
third.
Yeah, that's the thing. He will have left eventually, maybe back to Cleveland or back to LA. I think LA was always on the horizon. Mm-hmm. And it did take away, because look at everything that happened. Everything that catastrophically happened after he left was by circumstance and chance. No one could have predicted the Dwayne Wade leaving. Yeah. No one could really have predicted for Chicago of all places, Chris Voss blood content. And I would have been because the thing is, we probably would not have gotten Goran, who it's so weird to say that you miss a guy who really gave you 4 good years.
And he misses us. That's the other side of it. That's the worst
part. But he's just so likable, because I got to tell you now, if you look at what we were having with Roddy Magruder, Josh McDermott, what was his name? You know what I'm talking about.
Get Goran Dragic in the Heat front office in some sort of way. Make him a European scout or something,
This man and Luol Deng, of all people, were trying to vibe to Heat culture, where we were just like stuck with those guys I talked about, where I'm like, oh man, this is just really bad. Like, it was the dark eras of the Hassan Whiteside eras. So for me is that I can't be satisfied with, but I don't want to be too cocky. And I like to think I'm objective in a fan base. And I like to think basketball is when I'm kind of very good analytically, to a degree. I've been kind of on point on certain things, which is weird. And that's the toot that I'll give my own horn. And so the fact that we're actually like beating
sorry. I just looked at the parking prices for the Panthers game.
Oh, I'm sorry. So sorry. Tell me how much those parking prices are.
Minimum is $100.
Oof.
My dad are walking from the mall.
That comment I made to you before the show is so appropriate about value and worth right now because of those expenses.
Imagine downtown Miami for Game 3.
I'm very glad that I have good temperance, because I almost let it get beside me. No, I would have found the abuelita.
Cortez's call to Denver, and you're like, let's go.
I'm so glad that he exists and that kind of community exists in Twitter, so they can deal with the disappointment harder than I can deal with it. Because one game is one game. We still blew up a lead. We had to come back to get the lead and blew it. And then it was a good shot by Jamal Murray, and thankfully, Murray kind of got a little scared. I don't think they gave one away to us. We took that. We earned it. And that's the mentality that I like from this Heat team more than the other Heat teams I've seen in the last 12 years, because God, we're old, and that's how I'm going to go from there. they don't care what you think, and that's what Gabe Vincent has reiterated. I'm not going to spend my time reiterating that. I already gave them the humble pie for him and Caleb Martin, but the idea is that it's the whole thing is like, stop saying that we got lucky. If we beat them, we beat them. Just accept it. But if you guys don't want to accept it, we accept it because that's what we're here. This is how we made it. You don't get to the finals on mistakes. There is the possibility of 20 plus games being played. I can tell you how you can screw upwards in life instead of screwing up. You don't screw upwards to this level where you beat Milwaukee and a generational superstar and face of franchise, where you beat the Knicks, who are supposed to be better suited than you, where you beat the Celtics, who have generational superstar and face of the franchises and the hot new sexy hire Joe Mazzulla, and then you at least take one in Denver, and you took one in Denver because it's better to lose than to be swept. Sure. But do you think you have a fighting chance? We kind of had a fighting chance in game one until we get to the third period. And that's the one thing I've noticed about this team. Third period comes in, third quarter comes in, whatever the hell you want to call it. The team kind of falters a little bit.
Yeah, they're slow at the gate.
Yeah, they're very slow at the gate, and some of it's imbalance. I'm not going to be the stat guy.
There's a big feeling out factor with, like, I think they're waiting to see, they're reacting to whatever the other team's going to come at them with, and then they adjust from there.
What I will take away from the series, and by the time we come back to the show, the series should either be done or at Game 7, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Game 6, and I'll confirm that to verify it. But this is my thought process on it. This to me shows right now, and this is recency bias, I'm sorry, but the people that who would categorize and fall into this position, one of them wouldn't be in the playoffs right now for a long time, and the other one was in the finals last year with Steve Kerr. But if this is accomplished by Spo, I think this just kind of provides that he is at the Game 6 would be next. They're not going to have a Tuesday show, so we have to make our predictions now in that sense, right? But this series, this entire playoff run has shown that, I'm going to say it now, Spo is the most intellectual coach out there in the current game. Better than Pop now, because I don't know what Pop looks like in the playoffs anymore. It has been 4 years, so I can't speak to that.
Pop is trying to get one more core before he goes out.
Yeah, and that's understandable. Smarter than Kerr, because Kerr did have the luxury of having stars all across the table and good.
We talked about Kerr's. Kerr's gonna leave. He's gonna, as soon as he's done, he's gonna be like, okay, he'll take a break. He'll go back to broadcasting. And then he'll be like, he might take a front office job, and somebody will pay him. Like,
he'd be perfect for a front office job. The man's a great evaluator of scouts.
He did with the Suns. He was with the Suns. He built the Steve Nash team.
Yeah, but we're looking at like intellect in that sense, because it's to figure out how long to give somebody, to not run its course, to know when to call timeout when you see a team go on a 30-0 run. And it's just very impressive to me. And that means nothing if you don't win it all, but also he has a good way of just shutting people like me up who during the season, Jimmy Butler is carried by, Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin. He's like, I'm going to put them in full minutes. That's all you got anyway. So let me coach them throughout the season. And I shut up. And when I go and what did I start the NBA season with? Bam's not the guy, man. He can't go shoot threes. Bam's been our best player in this finals. And the idea they're approaching
Bam's
Jokic,
been the best player in the finals, and he was sorely missed in 2020.
I know. And with Jokic, their idea is like, he's scoring us anyway. But those other guys, you have to score 105 points to essentially win a good game or a tough game. Let him score 40. Someone else has to score the other 60. That's great logic. That is sound logic. Yes, the concept of in basketball, whoever has the most points win do apply. So we need shooters to shoot. However, the idea of like, let the guy get 40, let him get 50. Kobe got 80. Did Kobe win the game? Someone else has to score.
I saw this in Lebertard's thing, and when Spo was asked about that, and he kind of, he didn't snap at the reporter, but
he shut down Ramona Shelburne.
Yeah, but he was basically like
untrained eye.
Which, but it's once again, Spo thinks further than everybody else. That's from toiling in the video room for so long, so he kind of just sees things beyond. He sees basketball the way I see Splatoon.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, you got to look who he has over his shoulder.
And I'll compare Jokic the way I play in Splatoon, and you too, because we've had games where we don't really. We're helping the team facilitate, right? And that's what Jokic does. He's probably one of the best passers in the league. He's completely, like, you see highlight reel stuff of him. Like, that's what it is about, and that's why it's not completely sexy to people, especially that he's in Denver. But if he was anywhere, if he was in LA or Chicago or New York, it'd be sexy to everybody.
It's sexy to me to have a guy who can pass out of the post.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's that. But sometimes, you can score 40 plus in like in Splatoon. We can score 1,600, but sometimes that's what the other team is trying to make you do. So that's the Heat. There's no real answer. It's a flow thing. It's a flow thing with the game. It's just whatever's working, and that's what worked. And the Heat had to do their own part, making shots and things like that. So it's not entirely just. But the Heat pride themselves so much on their defense, and the way Denver players are talking about how the Heat do things that they do things that you don't expect them to do because it's unconventional, and that's really the only way that they're going to win this series is to be completely unconventional. You go crazy. I don't know, there was like that episode of Hey Arnold, right? Where you just gotta be crazier than the other person. And well,
to pick on that, and I think this will be my last thought going into the series, what I'm getting from this, have you had a team, and this is Miami Heat we talk about, so this is be predicated with this, has there been ever a championship contender in the finals that has been universally hated this badly? Not even comparison to the Heatles when they were around with LeBron. I mean, I legitimately don't think people who are not in this marketplace or don't follow the players as they want them to win. I know it sounds like maybe a little paranoid, but we took the blueprint that you guys tell us leads to championships, and we wiped our ass with it.
Yeah, it's the Cinderella. It's, you know what it's like? It's like it's the Heat or Shrek.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes.
The Heat or Shrek. It's not a Cinderella story. It's not the regular fairy tale everybody wants. The Heat are Shrek. The Heat are the heroes nobody really wants. That's what the Heat are. That's probably the perfect analogy.
I'm so sorry, Shrek. But I just have this image of Duncan Robinson as Pinocchio, and I can't get that out of my head now.
But that's what it is. The Miami Heat are the Shrek. They are doing things different. That it's not the Disney way of doing things, and it's kind of funny because it's ESPN and ABC, right? Doing the finals, and of course propagating the Heat hate because we know that's what's going on.
It's so weird to be in this universe where Skip Bayless thinks we're winning. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So the Heat are hated because they're not the sexy. They're not the knights in shining armor. They're Shrek coming in to save the princess.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, we've been saying house money, but I can't say house money until we actually win it, because this is the final hand, guys. This is why house money, we really have to see where it takes us. That's what I'm speaking on. But I swear to Christ, Francisco, if they win, I'm sending you the Shrek meme where he just smiles at Fiona when he takes off his helmet. Yeah. And I swear to God, if we could just find a way to use your graphic design skills to put that with Jimmy, and just put that helmet in there, it will be just beautiful. It just feels, hey, does that make Bam Donkey? Because Donkey did so much. He dealt with the dragon.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm trying to. Who the hell would be Farquaad then? Mike Greenberg is Farquaad. Oh man,
He's this tiny little man.
He a hater, man. I like Greeny, but I'm like, Greeny's straight up a hater, and his whole thing, and he's doubling down. It's like, I did not say the Heat were a bad team. I'm just saying the Celtics were a bad team. Like, logic makes no sense. It's just favoritism, and that's okay. Yeah, I'm like, it's just okay, but it feels like it's the most hated team when we should be the team that you guys kind of liked because we earned our keep and we beat everybody, right? It's not like you know who evidently caught fire at the right time? The team that you think that we are, that got to the finals, but we weren't whatsoever? Phoenix Suns.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. Caught fire, everything hit, and they just couldn't succeed. But they've never had that fortune or that relevancy to come back to again. Oh, they got into some final stuff. Yeah, sure.
They're a darling team right now. People want them. I think it's mainly because of Chris Paul. I think that's why.
Oof.
Each team that gets on the Chris Paul team, they want to be a darling team because people want to see him win something. But
you think you're treating us like we're this whole thing where you guys were like, everybody knew what you're doing. You were a 1 seed last year. You get to the model of consistency where you guys, all I hear about is like Atlanta Hawks, Chicago Bulls, those games. And if I have to hear one more time, and this also goes to my justification. Y'all screwed yourself over too, because if you didn't have a playing game, we wouldn't get reseeded as 7-8, even though we were a game and a half ahead of everything. And we wouldn't. I think we would have gotten the Celtics, and then you might have had your Giannis's out there, but you project us as this team of like super evils that comes in on a boon of luck. When in reality, because remember, that was the thing about the thing about Phoenix is that they didn't have the usual competitors in the West because Golden State was still injured. And then I think there was some friction with other people. I think the Clippers were still hurt too. So that's why I'm saying, I'm like, no, we didn't luck this up. We didn't strike it while the iron was hot. And we're not Allen Iversoning it either, because Jimmy's kind of died a little bit, which is fine. Get off this mindset that playoff players have to do everything universally, because he's done enough, but y'all just being petty because your teams are there, but you hate us. And I'm like, what? You should love us in that sense. But the thing is, I think you don't want Miami to get it because it reinvigorates the whole fan base, because 2 within 4, right? And then 2 appearances within 4 years, and also resets the whole, paradigm.
Yeah.
It'll bring some more people to the South. It will. I'm confident it will. I hope. We need a center. I like Love, but he's slow moving. Good opinion to put him in there. That's what we talk about intellect as a coach. Keep Cody Zeller off the market. It's just interesting to me of how hated we are, and that's all I'm going to say on that comment. We won't know, because next week's show is going to be kind of possibly Game 6, possibly not Game 6.
Yeah, well, Game 5. Like by the time I was looking at the schedule, when you mentioned that, so next Tuesday, let's see, that will be the 13th. So Game 5 will already have been over. That'll be on the Monday before. So the series could potentially be over one way or the other. Or
we will be the worst human beings
if they win. Yeah.
And we will be the worst human beings if they lose.
Yeah. Because it'll soften the blow if the Panthers get swept by that point for me.
Yeah.
Because it won't be the calamity if the Heat win. That's not what it'll be. It'll be the end of Shrek.
Pretty much. We just have Smash Mouth or I'm a Believer. We literally no. You have to title the show I'm a Believer.
Yep, that's what it. Wow. The Miami Heat are the Shrek of the NBA.
This is my favorite timeline. We're gonna get sued by DreamWorks. I don't care.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's see. We are at hour 48, Charles. We already talked baseball and all sorts of stuff, so we can head over to the cage, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a brief cage because I had to digest so much coming into it. So, welcome everybody, your weekly Trueplex, the Cage with Charles. Full disclaimer: wrestling is not fake; it's scripted, it's a stage fight. It's a song and dance. It's about men and women being the holy hell of each other, chasing championships, establishing their legacies, dealing with some familial issues, as we talked about Night of Champions, and also just kind of giving me dream matches. So I'll do bits. And when I say it'll be short, probably 5 minutes, because right now we've had 3 pay-per-views that have happened. And June 25th is the next big pay-per-view that I might actually be purchasing. So we're going to put that on last. WWE-wise, Raw has just happened. Seth Rollins defended his world heavyweight title in the first defense against Damian Priest in a good match last night, and then setting up the seeds for Seth versus Finn Balor at Money in the Bank, which is happening in London, which works because Finn's an Irish boy. So you get some of that homegrown talent to kind of go from there.
Global financial center, so yeah, that makes sense.
I will say this. I think Hunter has done so much wonders in projecting where these pay-per-views or PLEs ought to be. Puerto Rico, London, Wales, Saudi Arabia, but the crowds are so much better. American crowds watch the Bad Bunny match. I'm sorry. If it bothers you that I tell you in my top 5, not one too, but maybe 4 or 5 right now is Bad Bunny versus
Crowds.
Damian Priest. Yeah,
Well,
just the
hold on,
crowds.
hold on. Maybe we could spin this to be a little bit longer. Um,
All right.
just from my standpoint as a noob, because I've kind of been, because of you, my Twitter timelines have
I
wrestling stuff,
ruined
and
it.
every once in a while I do send I do put stuff on the group chat so you can see it. Be like, look what I found. So
Hmm.
kind of like a dog that finds like a dead bird and brings it to you. so like it's like, look at this from the 90s. Anyways, what would be, I don't know if you can do a top 3 just to keep it short, or top 5 best crowds,
Um,
because you're mentioning that, and you're right, with like international crowds, they are better than American crowds, and the World Baseball Classic was, from my standpoint, was a huge indication of that.
mhm.
Because that, man, that made me love baseball again. that reinvigorated me for the rest of this year.
I
But
think
or at
I,
least like, you don't have to do all time right now, because I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
mhm.
But like, at least like within like the last few years, let's say, let's not counting the pandemic year, of course, but
Well,
like,
I feel like it's not fair because you know what the touch points are in wrestling because it's always
or at least
Chicago,
crowd
New York.
reactions, and like maybe not overall, like, but like just reaction wise,
I mean, if you're talking
because
about
we've,
crowd investment is how I
yeah,
would
okay,
categorize it.
all right,
Interaction. I mean, it is really Chicago, New York, Mass, and then Midwest. Texas is good. You look at like where they hold the WrestleManias. My problem with Chicago, um, before CM Punk came back, is they would have WWE matches and they would say CM Punk in a WWE match where he's not wrestling there. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, take your foot out of your ass. You know what I mean? Going into it, but it's the pay per view. This is the problem. I'm going to tell you, the pay per view crowds are not really like non-interactive. They're good. They understand it's a pay-per-view. It's the culmination of storylines, or you can get matches that have no TV interruption, not a lot of filler, and it's just gonna be fantastic. So that's why I don't think it's fair. But I would tell you what I like about international versus the current. If you're going stateside, they were in Hartford, Connecticut last night, which is Vince McMahon's home roots. That's why he was there on the show. And
that's kind of the origins of WWE, right?
well, I don't know if it's
Okay.
his origins. That's
Or
just
at
where
least,
Vince lives.
from what I've watched of like history videos, because that too
Yeah.
is in my YouTube recommendations. Thanks, Charles.
You're welcome. You will learn to hate Vince. My paralegal's birthday is tomorrow, so his whole thing is like, oh, this wrestler's a Gemini. This wrestler's a Gemini. I'm like, you know what? I have the most evil person as a Virgo, and that's Vincent Kennedy McMahon. We're a day apart in birth. I am literally like he was probably born 11:59 August 24th. You know what I mean? That's really what it is. I wouldn't be surprised. But crowd wise, I enjoy stateside when Chicago's not being obnoxious. They're good. I like Cleveland. I think the Ohio crowd has good reactions because a lot of wrestlers come from there. Some parts of Texas is good. If I see the WrestleMania when they had like Dallas, Texas, and stuff like that, I think it was in Dallas, yeah, because they had Jerry's World 2 manias ago where Austin and Owens helped out. It helps the dynamic, it helps the energy, it helps you appreciate stuff. I'm not talking about the piped in crowd noises and people saying this is awesome or saying the what chant, but I want to be invested into it. New York's good when they go to Madison Square Garden. You get that investment because MSG is a very big vibe. You know what I mean? I think Miami's actually fun. Just from like the sports games, I haven't been to Kaseya Center for any of their wrestling events.
I mean, we had a WrestleMania like a decade ago, right?
No,
With The
I
Rock
think so.
at
And,
the.
yeah, a decade ago. And remember, it was going to go to Tampa a couple years ago. That's when COVID hit. And me and my
Mhm.
paralegal were just looking at each other. We're like, my dog, are we going to fucking do this? And we were going to. I was going to do for the NXT and the 2-night WrestleMania. And then, God damn it, COVID, you took it away from me. Because I've been to a live event and I've been to a live SmackDown. Yeah, a house show and a SmackDown. And I've been to a couple of the NXTs and when Fort Pierce there. So the pay-per-view was the notch off of it. I'm thinking about doing the AEW stuff at BB&T Center, but the thing is, it's in August, and I gotta see what's happening for Forbidden Door going from there. But the international crowds have really hit. Puerto Rico was awesome, man. The way they just carried everybody in that match at Backlash was just delicioso. And Night of Champions was good at Jeddah, where you were getting good quality matches. Part of that too is Hunter. Hunter's not giving you a lot of flub the way Vince did all the time. And then Wales was great. Cardiff was fantastic for Clash at the Castle, like that standing ovation that Sheamus got after he had match of the year for WWE for me last year against Gunther. And then just the Drew McIntyre Roman Reigns match was fantastic. So we're going to London, and I think that's how you kind of build a crowd. So what I've noticed, man, is that international makes it feel larger than life. There's something about an entire sold out, because you got to remember, football arenas are bigger than your standard basketball or hockey arena, because that's where a lot of the arenas are at, right? So you're getting thousands upon thousands of people singing people of Cody Rhodes' song, going whoa, and then or even Shinsuke Nakamura's theme song, all this other stuff. So it really brings in that captivation, because at the end of the day, it's theater in the park, right? Shakespeare in the park. And you need that involvement. Everybody likes applause. You want that applause. So Seth defended his title against Damian Priest. That's set up for him and Finn. There's a lot of history between Finn and Seth, because they had the inaugural Universal Championship like 7 years ago. Finn won it, but he was injured in that match against Seth, and he had to vacate that, a day after. So there's some storylines they're building with that. I don't know if Finn's going to turn on Damian or not. We'll see. There's plenty of time. Money in the Bank's not till July. So I can marinate that and go from there. What we did get was Gunther versus Kevin Owens for like 20 minutes on free TV. This was, for me, the litmus test that I knew in my heart of hearts that Gunther was ready for the main event scene. He just needs to drop that.
I've been high on him for quite a while.
I've been high. The man he beat a guy by beating him over with his boy. It was just beautiful. I'm like, what am I supposed to say with that? I was enamored.
Or Tears of the Kingdom, when the big moblins crick up the little bokoblins and throw them at
That's literally what it felt like. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what did this man just do? Holy shit. It was a very good sensation that I was a big fan of. So I was like, yes, please and thank you. But he's good, because I remember when he was Walter in the NXT UK days, and I did track him a little bit on the indies, and he's changed his look and everything. But Kevin Owens is I hate to say the word gatekeeper, because that's not his talent, but he can see and develop, and he has been the main event scene for a long time, and he has been truly the main event with the storyline that he was doing with the Bloodline.
He's got an unassuming body, Gunther. I'm just looking at it compared to the other wrestlers.
Yeah, well,
Nikola Jokic.
Well, that's the thing. I've sent you what he looked like in the past, though.
Yeah.
And he was a big mound of a man, because his inspiration was the old American Japanese wrestlers back then in the 70s and 80s. And he liked that. And he slimmed down. Now he looks like a straight up Bond villain. And I love it. But the reason why I'm a big fan of him is just he's good technically. He's good power. He can work with any style. And he doesn't have a standard finisher. He could beat you with a clothesline. He could beat you with a power bomb. He could beat you with a sleeper hold. And he could beat you with a splash. And what I'm bigger about him is he's a heel who's a heel champion who's in a stable, but his stable doesn't interfere every time. Roman Reigns. He could beat you clean. His whole thing is that the mentality and the energy is, on your best day, on my worst, you couldn't take me. And I hate to say that, but that's a vibe, man. That's an energy I kind of try to portray when I'm actually on my manic side, and try to hype myself up in how I do things, because that is how you achieve excellence. So where someone could have the best day, they still couldn't surmount to you. And it's that final boss vibes that he gives that helps out. And we talk about character work, and if I associate that phrase to your character, whether or not you think that's his character, but that's the feeling I have of it, that's a good thing. Because you know what that word isn't? Bland, cheap, tawdry, boring. No. He is the fuck around, find out equivalent of, heels in wrestling as a champion. He's going to break honky tonk records. I hope he does. The IC title reign of over 400 something days. He's like 100 days away now. Let's do it. And then when he does drop that belt, he can go after Seth. So big fan. SmackDown's going to develop. We're in the dilemma of, is Jey Uso going to pick Jimmy, his brother, or Roman, his tribal chief? Let me marinate on that, because wrestling is what, Francisco? A soap opera. And this has been a soap opera story.
Job.
He took my job. He took my brother. This is literally like New Jack City. Am I not my brother's keeper? This is what it feels like. This is the point. We're getting to the big crescendo. It's still going to be about 3 more months. I still don't know who dethrones Roman. I don't think it's going to be Cody, which is disappointing to a degree, even though I give Cody a lot of flack. Remember, I like Cody. Follow us on the Twitter, FJOJR, Charles the True, Dad Frijoles, Sports _ Goofs. My problem was, like, I like Cody. I don't think Cody's been thrusted into the right positioning of things. They're going to say that him versus Brock Lesnar is going to happen at SummerSlam, but they are going to give a mini feud of Cody versus Dominic. I'm like, this is perfect. Because even Cody, in all his candidness, is making fun of Dominic. He's like, you got a worse prison tattoo than the one that I have on my neck, or the one that I have. I'm like, this is fantastic. That's what I kind of like a little bit about Cody, when he does have that gravity. But can we just take a shout out to Dominic Mysterio? I sent you that little clip last night about like him going, whoa, I just slapped Cody Rhodes. I'm like, the sing song to Cody's theme song. Man, I made that rhyme pretty well. And Dom's just so goofy. He gets it. He has good heat. And I was like, screw it, just give him the title. And to kind of go from having a great rivalry with his father to, because that was my favorite WrestleMania match. Ray brought out the belt, man. And then translating over to just kind of bothering Cody. It's a good cooler for Cody, so he can eventually get Brock at SummerSlam, whatever kind of match they do. But it's just interesting enough that we'll go from there. Women's stuff going on. Trish Stratus is still messing with Becky Lynch. They're doing Money in the Bank qualifiers, and we're closer to it. I'll explain Money in the Bank again. We don't need to do that now. All I know is a few people have advanced going from there. I think they're going to save Drew McIntyre to return as the final entry. I could be hyped for it, but going back to SmackDown, I want to know if they're going to do Jimmy versus Roman for the title, or they're going to have Jimmy and Jay versus Solo and Roman. Because my thought process is this, man. You already have a World Heavyweight Championship. Let Seth defend it at SummerSlam. Make the storyline happen about, family members going against each other without titles at play. Have the tag team match happen at Slam. Let Jimmy versus Roman happen at Money in the Bank. Women's stuff, I need them to explain what's going on with the titles still, because you have Rhea Ripley holding the SmackDown Women's Championship, but she's on Raw, and you have Asuka holding the Raw Women's Championship, but she's on SmackDown. What are we doing here? Right? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Are you going to create new titles? Speaking of new titles, Roman has a new title now to celebrate his commemoration of 1,000 days, because he was Roman 2 belts for a bit. Now he has that undisputed WWE Universal Championship, and oh man, that shit is ugly. It literally looks like a knockoff gold ring that is fading green. I can't fall in love with it, and I think it's because it's all gold everything. The black strap looks good, but in the the face of the title, the W's are outshined, because the W's have diamonds in them, right? Allegedly, but they're outshined by the gold plating, because all you got is
which belt is it?
This title that you're looking at, the undisputed WWE Universal Championship.
Okay.
But that's just a photo op that you got. That's what you get in those textbooks when you go in high school.
Yeah, this is like a computer rendering, whatever.
Yeah. Like computer rendering, you're like, okay, yeah, I can see it. But the problem is, if you look at it in actuality, the gold outshines diamonds. And listen, you see,
he's holding.
Yeah. That's it. Doesn't look well because of the lighting in the camera. I've seen pictures where he doesn't have that high end lighting on it, and maybe it looks fine, but it kind of looks like more mustardy. It looks like Roman is presenting for the 4th of July Nathan hot dogs. And I like the black backdrop because it made the white pop out. And it's funny, I have that black one, and I have my old WCW World Heavyweight Championship. I think you could have gone sexier with the diamonds in the W, or you just could have made it more white. I don't know what you want to do with it. There's something that is lacking. It is not aesthetic to the eye, and it looks more like instead of looking like the WWE logo, when I'm looking at it like that one, just looks like two guys putting up the Longhorn sign from Texas. Be like,
or Wario.
Wario's
belt.
Yeah, was the Wario belt. And I think I said it too in the chat, is that it's only going to look good on certain wrestlers. Not everybody's going to be projectively go with it. If you put you need somebody who works with that gold, man. Size, attitude, whatever comes into it. But some people are angry, like it's the same belt getting redesigned. I'm like, yeah, because it's their brand, dude. Like they want you to remember that's their logo. They are a publicly franchised corporation that just got sold to Endeavor, and they're going to become something else, but it's still a product, and branding is all that matters. You don't think anybody's going to know anything about Miami? If I just wrote, hey, it's a Miami shirt, it's just a red shirt. No, you need the basketball and flames going against the hoop, man. Like it's a logo. It is the brand. You have to work with it. So I'm not against that per se. It's just the color coordination. Granted, Roman was carrying that old black one, and he was carrying the old blue one. So you were kind of stuck with a damned if you don't, damned if you do situation. I think the question that I would have done, if you want to ask, is instead of all that change, I would just done, you know how there's that red stripe on it? I would just made it both red and blue to symbolize, you know, Raw and SmackDown. Kind of go from there in case you have a redrafting of the brand, but it just doesn't work because the diamonds don't come out.
I mean, here it is.
Yeah, with the lighting.
Screen, with the actual lighting that it will be under.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is you might say to me, hey Charles, why does what the title look like matter? Because that's the aesthetic, right? No one would really care about, you wouldn't have that emphasis of the Larry O'Brien trophy if it was a small little cup from the Dollar Tree, correct? So you want something that has that oomph and that's something, I don't want to say joie de vivre because you're giving life to an inanimate object, but you have that energy that makes you go say champion. That looks like a champ, because nothing's ever going to beat the big gold belt, WCW World Heavyweight Championship, which WB had for a bit. That is the best belt known to kind. Y'all can take your WWF Wing-Tipped Eagle Championship, stick that sumbitch sideways, as The Rock says, and shove it up the candy as his comparison.
So here it is again. He's coming with the old one that you told me.
Yeah. He had the blue, and then Paul has Paul has the black. Or Roman has a blue, yeah. So it's fine. And then you see on the all gold, and it just doesn't come in aesthetically for me. Mm-hmm. So it's just there. Like, I appreciate the gold because that's where no one puts silver. You're not gonna have platinum, and it's better than the stereotypical spinner belt that John Cena had, that Vince had for like 10 damn years. I hated so much. But now I kind of like the World Heavyweight Championship more than the WWE Championship, even though
right to it. Like, here it is.
Yeah, but I think the question is though. So this was the question I have for you: why wouldn't you put the logo that's on the top in the middle, in the bottom? You know what I mean? I think it would clash a little bit, but you're already acknowledging that it clashes. But I think that kind of frame will work with the gold. I think the problem with the gold belt on top is that the WWE symbol and the world sign, you actually ruin it. I don't know what you put in the middle, but you just don't have anything, right? Mm-hmm. It's just product placement. I just find it interesting how they redesigned the World Heavyweight Championship to have a completely different logo, and they did nothing with the Undisputed Universal Championship. But okay, because my whole thing is like, you're talking about Universal. I don't even see a planet on there. That's what never makes sense to me.
Yeah, or some galaxies or whatever. Yeah,
I know, but we're too literal, and sometimes you have to remember that wrestling is not literal. So that's that for now on the WWE phrase. As I have like 20 messages on my phone. Why is everybody blowing me up?
Just a quick question before we figure out 2 hours and 7 minutes. Has there ever been a wrestler that has done like the alien motif? Like, I'm from another planet.
I mean, not that I can recall.
Got, like, but I mean, zombie-ish people and stuff like that.
Undertaker was a dead man. Kane was basically sent from hell. You would have
done like the alien thing. Like, I'm from another planet. I'm going to take the Universal Championship because I'm from Gleeglock. if you want to say like Chris Statlander over in AEW, who's now the TBS champion, her whole thing was like, she had like an alien gimmick, but not as an alien like that. Okay. I mean, wrestling back in the day, for any kind of changes and stuff like that, they would do Parts Unknown. From Parts Unknown or Truth and Consequences, even though we find out there's a place called Truth and Consequences in New Mexico, which I would kind of want to live at. Where do you live at? Truth and Consequences, baby. What the fuck? So there's that. AEW New Japan Forbidden Door. I hate the terminology. When you have this big crossover because you have New Japan wrestlers wrestling in AEW, vice versa. Like Eddie Kingston could be the G1 Climax. That should be sweet. And then you have Zack Sabre, who's contracted with New Japan over in Ring of Honor. But they're gonna have the Forbidden Door pay-per-view June 25th. I'm pretty much gonna buy it. Those two matches that they've already announced of Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay Part 2 for the US it's the US Championship, New Japan US Championship. I didn't see the first one. I watched highlight clips and that looked like a banger. They're getting a rematch, but then I'm getting Kazuchika Okada and Bryan Danielson, and I love me some Bryan Danielson. He was Daniel Bryan WWE, back to Bryan Danielson, his old Ring of Honor name. Now he's AEW. I know what I'm getting. Danielson couldn't compete last year because he had some injuries. Now we're getting him for Okada. Okada's the face of the franchise for New Japan. No belts involved. Let's just happen. Let's just have it happen, man. And even the shit talk has already been fantastic because Danielson goes and says, Okada, you call yourself in the Rainmaker, but when you wrestle me, you're gonna be the desert. It ain't gonna rain here. I'm like,
buddy, that's kind of cold. Hold on here. Let's sit down. Okada's like, I'll make it rain anywhere. I'm like, ooh, I think you guys don't realize the concept of making it rain is about money in strip clubs, but you're going to take my dollars. That's for damn sure. Because you're going at the height of who is possibly one of the more top 5 revered wrestlers of all time in Danielson right now. And then Okada, who has literally been the face of the franchise. He is your torchbearers of wrestlers from New Japan, and this is good for him because he kind of relegated from being a champion to now being in the trios championship, or whatever the hell they call it, for the never open weight, 6-man tag team titles is what they call it, I guess. But this is what the fantasy booking ought to be. And I was talking to my buddy Tony, and I'm like, man, I need Samoa Joe versus like Hiroshi Tanahashi or something like that. It's like, no, you're going to get Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. is already, and I like Zack Sabre, don't get me wrong, but he's already wrestling at Ring of Honor, building up a storyline. But if I really am getting dream matches, let me get dream matches, not something that could happen on the mere possibility of certain things. And those are the only 2 matches that have been announced on the card. And they got 3 weeks really to make this worth my while. But this is one of those times from like, how much do I get for my mileage reimbursement checks? Looking at it, how much do I get for this? And I'm like, I can scrounge $50 and I'll watch it and I will enjoy it and I'll be happy. What's the Ronaldo meme is like, I think I deserve it and I will like it or whatever. That is me right now, because there's different styles of wrestling. WWE is very sports entertainment based focus. It's evolving slowly but slightly. But when it comes to hard hitting, is that Goro Majima in the background? It is.
I just looked for AEW Japan and I got this as an advertisement. So
it's fine, because you remember there's some people in New Japan who have featured into Yakuza, such as Naito, and we love Naito. I was thinking with Naito, I'm like, man, I'll take Naito Joe, but they're gonna give me, they're gonna do Joe and Sabre. So I'm just trying to figure out who Naito is gonna wrestle. I'm gonna figure out who Tanahashi is gonna wrestle. I wonder what you're gonna do with Sonata, because I don't think you're gonna have Sonata versus MJF. You shouldn't have Sonata versus MJF. You should have Sonata probably go against Konosuke Takeshita. That would be fine, I guess, if you're trying to get the Battle of the New Bloods in there, even though Konosuke is doing stuff with Kenny, but I think you could progress that AEW story. Naito, I'm not sure. I think Naito and Joe would interest me too. But there's a lot of layers of stuff of interest that you could build with. But you also have to figure out who, because remember, AEW also has a severely bloated roster. And that's why they're doing Collision Course and stuff like that on Saturdays, doing 3 shows. So when you have a very bloated roster, who are you going to showcase as your best of the best for Forbidden Door? And I know we're going to get Bullet Club versus Bullet Club Gold. God damn it. So Bullet Club Gold is an offshoot of Jay White and Juice Robinson and possibly El Phantasmo, which would be nice. And I'm sure they'll go against Dave Finlay, who's now the leader of Bullet Club over in New Japan, who has other stuff too. We'll figure that out, man. I think Jay White is bigger than Bullet Club. But hey, he's signed with AEW. That's the moniker he's going with. Let it happen. Not everything has to be his lifetime career. It's just him and Juice are good talkers. I've sent you stuff on Juice Robinson before. He's interesting to me. Stardom, I don't think, is doing anything, so you're not going to have women's match, or maybe you'll have women's matches. I just don't think you'll have New Japan and AEW because Stardom, I believe, is an offshoot of New Japan. I think they're owned by the same big brand name, Bushi Road, which I believe is the name. You see, they're making me go into shit that you guys don't know about that I know it's weird. I will enjoy it, and I think I deserve it. And that's why I'm probably gonna pay $50 for it. Starving kids, nah. I gotta eat a bag of Doritos and Hershey's cookies and cream, and still give money to the starving children, of course. But Sally Struthers is out. If you've seen that South Park episode, as I watched this happen June 25th, so I'm excited, man. And that's what I'll give you this week for wrestling. That's all I got.
Alrighty. Okay, well, that's it. That's the end of the episode, so bye.
Take care. Go Heat.
Yeah, go Heat, go Panthers.